meeting to order. I'll start off with our preamble. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, this meeting will be conducted in person and as a courtesy via remote means in accordance with applicable law. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public and board members, the meeting/hearing will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast, unless required by law. Members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so by viewing the Duxbury Government Access channels, Verizon 39 or Comcast 9. Viewers can visit www.pac-tv.org/Duxbury for information about Duxbury programming, including streaming on Duxbury YouTube, to watch replays and video on demand. Okay. The first order is a Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okey doke. Next order of business is open forum, which means if you've brought something that you would like to bring to our attention, nothing that we can deliberate on tonight, but just something that you'd like to bring to our attention, you can do so at this time. We'll start with the board, but people in the audience, whenever you need to speak tonight, you need to go to the podium and give us your name and address. Pass this down. Brian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A few things. One, I learned sad news this week. Longtime volunteer Steve Donovan passed away this week as a Navy veteran and a member of American Legion Post 223. He was spent a lot of time clearing trails in town, and we owe him a great deal of thanks. I understand his services are on Saturday. I wanted to ask, there was a resident asked me about the state budget with the slashing of the earmarks, whether that affects Duxbury Fire Department. Hoping I can get an answer for that so I can get back to that resident. I know and this is through Rainey, we're talking about the subsidized.
You will tonight under my report.
Great, thank you. Subsidized housing inventory. We need to update that. Judy Barrett was kind enough to raise the issue that we might be undercounting our numbers. And that we're looking to put a meeting together to get those numbers updated so Duxbury gets the credit for the units that exist. And then finally, I just want to acknowledge we have, I don't see any online, but we have a scout in the audience. I'm teaching the Citizenship in the Community Merit Badge. And we have here tonight Jack Geisler. And I promised if they came in person and wore the uniform, they'd get on TV. So why don't you stand over at the podium and you can give everybody a wave. Jack is a Life Scout in Troop 62, and one of the obligations and requirements is to come and observe a meeting, and then we'll talk about the meeting after the fact. So he'll be here for a little while. His dad.
There he is.
Welcome, Jack.
TV.
Yeah, welcome, Jack.
His dad,
Making people famous.
that's right, his dad, Rich, who's the Scoutmaster Troop 62, is also here in the back. I'd like to thank him for all his work in the community.
But you can't go on TV. No, you could if
You
you
didn't wear
wanted
your
to.
uniform.
That's right. And then finally, I just want to thank Mr. Guitart. In connection with the Merit Badge, he was kind enough to volunteer to speak to the Scouts regarding PFAS. One of the obligations is to talk about an issue in the community. The Scouts selected PFAS as their issue, and Mr. Guitart is going to speak with them about that issue. So we thank you.
My pleasure.
Great. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Because he's all washed up. There's
Oh.
all kinds of water jokes we could
Oh,
make.
is that, what is that on the
Oh,
tape?
Anybody else on the board have anything on?
I do. First, I just want to ask if Brian could, I don't understand your first question. Is that about state funds to local towns?
Yes.
And the assumptions that we make, and to see if there's any assumptions or any funding that may be in excess or not?
Yes, if the slashing of the state earmarks, and I understand that they've been cut by about 50%, whether that has an impact on any of the budget items for the fire department.
Oh, okay.
That was a
So I
question
was-
a resident had for me, and I didn't have an
I
answer.
too was asked a similar question about assumptions that are made by the finance director, I think, as we approach into the budget season each year. And if those, as we get closer, when the state sets their budget, have those assumptions been impacted by the actual budget that was voted in at the state? So maybe we could get an answer to that at some point too, Rainey.
Your
Would that be okay?
Amy, your microphone.
Microphone, Amy.
Oh.
It's all
Thank you. And then my only other silly thing was just to thank whoever is responsible for fixing the charger out at the town hall. We now have 2 working chargers, first time in a long time, so thank you.
Months.
Thank you. That's it.
Anybody in the audience want to have anything that they'd like to bring up for open forum? Remember your name and address, please.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Cleonice Husk. I and my husband have a house on 160, 162 Marshall
Can you
Street.
do me a favor and can you speak up a little bit? That doesn't actually,
This?
that microphone is only for the TV audience.
Oh.
It doesn't do it for
Project.
us. It doesn't
Oh, okay.
project, so.
So you're not hearing me?
I was not hearing you.
Okay.
So,
All right, so I'm Cleonice Husk from 160, 162 Marshall Street. You might remember me that I started the election for the short-term rental legalizing on the town. And so the reason that I'm here today is to open you guys, your members, out for possibly a very strong case of abusing of power and abuse of public position. And I'm going to start by the begin. I'm going to start when I was doing the election. A member of this town, his name is David Udy, who represents my neighbor who worked against me on the short-term rental zoning case with the ZBA, and is represented by David Udy, who's a planning board member of this town, who's representing the town and my neighbors at the same time. So while the election was going, David Udy decided to set up a private meeting with the local board of health, and without notifying me by mail, and the town did not notify me either. And in a public meeting that I wasn't present to defend myself, he accused me of disposing feces on a bay, contaminated the bay. So therefore, the local board of health decided with no evidence at all, no scientific fact, no nothing, that our property was, and we were an imminent hazard to the town, which is a huge allegation based on no evidence whatsoever, no notification to us to defend ourselves. So therefore, he has been since getting every members of this town to turn against us, using lies, turning for a get together on my property and using it as commercial enterprise, and therefore create a case on this town that therefore, because I had 4 get together on my property, that the property was an imminent danger. The state does testing to that water every month of the year, all the way through the bay and around, because we do have fishing around oysters. And as you know, my husband also is an oysterman and worked with Skip since from the beginning. We got calls on Skip's restaurants everywhere asking if my husband was working and that he was polluting the bay, because David Udy's clients, before even the decision was made in a public hearing, and even the decision was made by health department, that they decided we were guilty of that imminent hazard, a public hazard. So therefore, I ask you, how is this neighborhood fighting is benefiting the community? Because after that, we had to sue the town, which then all of you taxpayers are paying for that lie, which is a defamation lie, which is gonna cost the town more money and resource because we're gonna have to clear our name and reputation. We also did, and the court required that we did some water testing, which also came out negative, in addition to the state testing that they does every month that it showed no level of pollution whatsoever, right? But then the health department went a little bit further and asked for the judge not to accept the water testing that was concluded negative. We did 2. We can do 1 and every day and each month, and there is no imminent hazard or danger to that property, or we're dumping anything in a bay. So the health department asked the judge not to accept the thing that could clear our name out, which is water testing certified by a very good lab test, approved, and they say the health department didn't want to accept. Okay, that's weird. Okay, but let's go a little bit more further. They didn't want to in court define what an imminent hazard is, or imminent health, or imminent hazard, right? They didn't want that. The court also demanded that they do that. We didn't ask, okay? We didn't ask for this. All this is started because of one Airbnb. And therefore, so David Udy is using the town and the members of boards of this town to turn against us. And he uses lie, and he exaggerates, he takes picture. He goes to every single board in this town that we have something open as a notice of intent to pound us. So therefore, he's using the town resource and his member as a planning board of this town in his position to attack, to hunt, and to get out of this, making any position, using the law, using the thing, anything, so we can take this town to court. And therefore, we're gonna get into the Tom and Jerry thing, cat and mouse thing, where we exhaust our financial resource going to court. Yes, we've been very successful in court against the neighbor's lie with the David Udy using the town resource and taxpayers' money to benefit his neighbors, his clients, my neighbors. So, and it's working because he has a power within here. He talks to other members, the zoning board of appeal has a person that works directly with David Udy, works for him. Then is a Freeman Boynton who works for a neighbor of mine who is represented by David Udy. So it's pretty clear there's a scheming here going on behind doors. And I feel like I'm not getting a fair share over here of getting every board that I get to get a notice of intent or something that has to do with the town to get going on. Nobody gives me all the proper paperwork to do my diligent job. And when I don't do it, I would like not to be interrupted, please, because I need to finish, and then you guys can ask me a question at the end or not. But every time that I come to this town with information asking, what do I need to do to acquire this? They give me the wrong information, they don't know. And then when Dave Duty comes and says, oh, here we go. They didn't do their job. You know, they're bad people. They keep doing things with this town and they're not doing the proper thing with this town. It's just constantly using us. They're using the neighbors, Dave Duty is using the neighbors, using the town resource, his power to get to us, to run us out of here. And that's a very strong feeling of some type of corruption and people paying each other's off of here. And the reason why I'm here to conclude is I want to alert you guys so maybe you guys can do something about it. I'm not asking anything, any benefit here. I'm asking to be treated with respect. I'm asking when I go to any town, any commission in this town, I'll be given the proper paperwork to do what I need to get done. Okay? That's respect. And that's the only thing that I'm asking from this town. It's respect. I've been paying my tax $60,000 a year. I haven't got one benefit from it. One. I've been hunted. All my resources being to that. If my neighbors have a problem with me, I have no problem taking them to court and resolve that in a civil court. But using the town to attack me in my financially, emotionally, that's cruel. That's malignant. And I'm asking each one of you to go home tonight. And if you ask if this was done to any one of you, if how you would like that. Okay? That's all I have to say. And if nothing is going to be done, I'm going to give a couple of months for this to settle down. If nothing is going to be done, I will go to every single high state level and show this case. I'll put up my case. And I know I have people on this top watch, I'm not going to mention the name, that has told me behind doors that they seen pretty big things going on. I'm not going to mention the name because they're scared of coming out, but I am not. Okay? And I'm asking for respect and dignity as a taxpayer. Respect. Respect. Because I do pay my taxes. I do what is right. And that's all I want, what is right. I want to be respected as a taxpayer. And I want every taxpayer here to be respected, that your money is not going to be used because of little neighbors' fight. That is not right. That is not right. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anybody else? Oh, sorry.
Charles Husk, 160, 162 Marshall Street. I just, on a different note, number one, before I forget, has anyone mentioned the telephone pole on Chestnut Street that has 3 transformers on it that looks like it's about to fall down? Has anyone said anything about that?
Nope.
I think I'm gonna maybe jinx it. It'll probably fall down in this storm, but
I hope
that
you're
is, right, I hope, well, let's knock on wood on that. But that should definitely be looked at. That thing is ready to snap. Every time I drive by down there, I'm sure you guys must have noticed it.
I know it.
You know what I'm talking about, right, Rainey?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Yeah, that is,
He's making a note, thank you.
yeah, great, yeah. I mean, that's obviously not your thing, but you can notify the
I can.
power company and probably
Yep.
get that looked at. If it falls over tomorrow, no, I didn't do it. I would just want to address something that happened 2 weeks ago. Emmett Sheehan had come up and made a proposal. I just want to second his proposal about looking at the taxes for short-term rentals. And I know, Fernando, you voiced that it was illegal in this town. Now that is the state, it can't be illegal in the town. I just wanted to correct that it is a permitted process. You cannot make short-term rentals illegal in the town. That's against the state law.
Illegal, you mean?
Yeah, it can't be illegal. That's against state law.
Okay.
So I just wanted to correct you on that, just to make sure, because that's part of the
What?
problem and
It's not in compliance with
misinformation
our
is that we
zoning.
go into the town offices and talk with the employee. All the town employees, by the way, are great. They're really great.
Thank you, we think so too.
They're great. I mean, Warren's great. They're really great. But I think sometimes they struggle with some of the information, and when information like that comes down to their level, they have a misunderstanding. That misunderstanding gets relayed to the townspeople. So it's really important. I understand your what you're trying to say, but it's important to be accurate about that. One, because the state AG would probably not like that very much, and number two, it's important for the citizens of the town to understand how that process worked. I did not get the luxury of understanding that and that information being conveyed to me when I came into the town and asked. So it's really important that the town employees are equipped with that information to be able to relay that to them. I think some of the things that have gone on hopefully have alleviated that, and I know that it's something that the town is continuing to work on and make better and clearer. But I just wanted to correct you on that point, Fernando, just to make sure that.
I'm not allowed to debate that
No, we
or
can't.
discuss that with you.
That's
because it's not
okay.
in the
I just
agenda.
wanted to publicly.
Well,
I just wanted to put that out public, so just
Well,
you guys could.
I have to keep quiet.
That's okay. I just wanted to
It will be
put
a
that out
subject
there.
of a future meeting.
Yes, it will.
Sure.
That clarity.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. That's all I had. But I wanted to second the idea to relook at that. I know not a lot of those permits are issued, and the other thing, when you say that, you also sort of say the quiet part out loud that these short-term rentals are looked at as being illegal, and short-term rentals are something that has existed in this town for a very long time. This town is more populated in the summer communities. It is something that has happened, and even my aunt wrote a book. She participated in writing a book about short-term rentals in the town. It's a nice book. I recommend people look at it. Even the other day, the Historical Commission posted some documentation of some of the history of short-term rentals that the town used to have in the old days. So it is a tradition of the town. It is something that the town has partaken in. It is a summer community that the population of this town does get increased in the summer. So it's something that I know that you guys are working on, but I just wanted to reiterate that. So
Okay.
thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And we're gonna come back. I know it's been 1 year since the amendment of the short-term rental in this town. I just want to let you know that I'm gonna come back again next year
2 years.
for that. If you guys want to resolve that, that's the open time of the year.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Mr. and Mrs. Husk.
Thank you.
Under open forum, if I could
Open
just
forum.
address open forum, which is an opportunity for members of the public to be able to speak what's on their mind, but it does preclude us from having a conversation, even when it comes to correcting inaccuracies that may be a part of the conversation. And I do look forward to a future meeting where we can address this subject and make corrections to the inaccuracies that may have just occurred. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right, so anybody else in the audience want to bring anything up? No? Good. So under new business, we're going to do some annual town meeting articles, starting with number,
If I may,
4.
Madam Chair, does anybody need a copy of the warrant?
I
Yes.
do.
I do, please.
See that?
The electronic one you sent, you mean?
This is
I sent
old.
I like the
Friday.
electronic one. Thank you.
But I have hard
I
copies
give
too.
it back. I only use it when I'm here, and I give it back. I have the electronic.
It's all right, I got it right here.
Lots of other things up there,
Thank you very much.
sir.
And I had previously given you copies of what I call the one-liners, which shows you the status of the articles. You'll notice in the Board of Selectmen column, those are the ones that we're going to be covering this evening. And then in further columns, you'll see the ones that the Finance Committee still has yet to review. I believe they reviewed all of the ones that you'll be covering this evening, and if not, we'll talk about that too. And if you don't mind, Madam Chair, first up would be Article 4.
Yep.
And with that, Jeannie Horn prepared a memo, which I emailed it to you, but in case you want a hard copy, some people like hard copies still.
When did you email this?
I sent it out on Friday.
Really?
Yes, the memo that I'm sending now. It went
Yes,
out.
I did get it.
It
yeah.
went out Friday. Yep.
Yep.
But you have hard copies here, and she's here to walk you through it now anyways.
That's good, because I don't remember seeing it.
There were 2 emails that I sent out. One was the warrants, the second one was this one.
Okay, well, here we go.
So there you are.
Hi, Jeannie.
Hello, I'm Jeannie Horn, Human Resources Director for the town of Duxbury, also resident, 7 Buckboard Road. I'm here to walk you through annual town meeting Article 4. And just by way of background, the objective for Article 4 is to maintain our non-union pay structure, which is designed to deliver equitable internal and external compensation based on the town's ability to pay. So we have over many years benchmarked our competitive set communities, and in order to come up with the recommendation, we pull the information from those competitive set communities, understanding what they plan to do for their communities for fiscal year '25. And the methodology that we've used in the past to get there, starting with last year, was that we were able to move 61 non-union employees into the pay range for their grade. We provided a 2% general increase to the pay range minimum and maximum, unless that pay would cause the employee's pay to exceed the pay range max. And then we moved them into the pay range. We applied a 3% merit increase, budgeted 3% merit increase, and 44 employees received years of service adjustments on an as-needed basis based on whether or not they were below the midpoint of the pay range for their grade. So we're focusing specifically on individuals who were below the minimum of the pay range for their grade last year, and those who then also ended up below the midpoint of the pay range for their year. So then this year we're recommending a similar approach for fiscal year '25. We are recommending a 3% general increase to the pay range minimum and maximum. And we're recommending a 1.5% merit pool. So individuals who began working for the town of Duxbury in the middle of the review period, their merit increases will be prorated, as we've done in years past as well. And then there are years of service adjustments that we will recommend for individuals who still remain below the midpoint of their pay range, given the fact that they have 7 or more years of service to the town. So in terms of the memo that is in front of you, the total cost for this recommendation for annual town meeting Article 4 is $315,653. And I walked through the objective and the methodology. The methodology, to be more specific, includes years of service adjustments for those in positions who are below the midpoint. With 7 to 10 years of service, it would be a 1% increase. 10 to 13 years of service, 4%. 13 to 16 years would be 9%. And 16 or more years of service would be a 10% one-time adjustment, because what's happening is individuals with that significant years of service are well below the midpoint of their grade. So this is an opportunity to move them into a place that is more appropriate for their years of service within the pay range. Any questions?
Yeah.
So we're playing catch-up still.
We are, but the good news is that the cost continues to trend down because we're getting caught up. So with this with the changes that we've made over the last 3 years, we are seeing that the work is paying off, and we are having a much more fruitful experience in terms of attracting and retaining the talent that we need to run the town of Duxbury. So it's been a significant change in terms of the depth and breadth of the applicant pools for some of our more challenging positions in particular. So it is important to continue that, those implementation measures so that we continue to make incremental changes based on our ability to pay and based on our ability to attract and retain individuals in those non-union positions.
I do understand the need to get caught up and to, once we do that, I look forward to the day that we're caught up and can then, but in the meantime, we still do need to address the merit increases and how those are awarded, what percentage in the review equals what percentage of a merit raise, and I don't think we've had that.
It's coming.
Okay.
Actually, so you'll notice on the memo that I provided to the board, it does state, to your point, Amy, that the 1.5% estimated cost for merit increases based on that pool, that individual increases will be based on the performance evaluation score. So there will absolutely be a differentiation in merit award based on the performance evaluation rating.
Right. There will be, but
There
we
will
haven't
be.
decided
Yep.
what that is yet.
Right, it's not something, it's based on the availability of the funding. As I've said in previous meetings, the funding, once we're funded, employees aren't static. So there's attrition after we get that funding. So we're going to be continuing to hire people within the review period, and people will be leaving within the review period. So it's very difficult to say specifically what that award will be. And, our personnel policies do recommend that there is a correlation between that merit award and the rating. So there will absolutely be a correlation. I just can't specifically say what that's going to be. I mean, in terms of operationally, the performance evaluation ratings are stated on a percentage basis from 0 to 100. So it would be, it's much more, the rationale is easy to follow when you're scoring because it follows kind of an academic performance, right? Because if you've got a paper and you get 100 on it, you're going to get the highest possible score. And in this case, you would get the highest possible correlated merit increase. So it will be based on a 100% scale, and then the merit increases will be awarded relationally.
I understand, and that is the way it should work, and I understand that for the budget, we need to set aside money that assumes that everybody gets an increase that may not be the actual case in the long run. So I understand that. What I'm just getting to is that I don't, based on the conversation of last year and the way that the merit raises were awarded, we made it clear that we weren't in agreement with, we needed to
Understood.
have a seat at that table. So I'm just reminding everybody that, that's still something that we want to look at and make sure is.
Understood. And the message has been received, and that's why it clearly states on the memo that it will be a relational merit award based on the performance evaluation rating.
Okay, thank you, Jeannie.
Is there a range that the merit increases can go up to? Like,
So it's based on a 100% score. So it depends on whether or not this year we use a 4, like 1 through 4, or whether we do 1 through 3.
okay. All right.
That's in play.
Mike?
I don't know if this is a Jeannie question or a Mary question. For this year, would this $315,653 be paid for? What will it be paid from? And can we use the lost revenue for the ARPA side at all for any of these increases in salary or anything like that?
Mary, do you
Can I
want to
speak
speak
to
to that?
Sure, absolutely. So of the 315,000 that Jeannie had quoted for you guys, just bear in mind that that is going to be spread across some multiple funding sources, the largest of which is the general fund. So $281,433 will be borne by the general fund. The funding source for that is raise and appropriate. Because this is a compensation is an ongoing operating expense. It is not a one-time expense, so we would not be utilizing one-time revenues for that type of activity. So it will be part of the raise and appropriate, which is comprised of the tax levy and other funding sources.
Okay. My next question for the future. Now that these salaries are brought up and the pay ranges are brought up, and I know we haven't had an in-depth discussion on this, is this sustainable under our current 2.5 and our current revenue structure?
We have
year.
balanced, we are presenting for you a balanced FY25 budget that will be brought forward to town meeting. So to answer your question, can we afford this personnel plan? The answer is yes. I can't speak to what the increases may be proposed for in the future. Obviously, we need to sit down and have some conversations and some forecasting sessions regarding our future budgets, and not only the personnel policy, but also other collective bargaining agreements and what those future impacts might be on our budget. We know we've had conversations over the last several months that our levy capacity, we are right at our levy capacity, and we need to address that.
And is it fair to say that these positions are a mix of both union and non-union positions?
No.
No.
They're all
They're all
non-union?
non-union.
Oh, I saw some I thought I saw call firefighters and things of that nature.
They are non-union,
Oh,
yes. So Article 4 also contains all of the union positions. So there's over 126 people employed in positions under the personnel policies.
okay.
There's a little over 100 unique positions, but there's over 126 people in those positions because some positions have multiple people in the same role. Call firefighters were always in the personnel policies. They, through the classification and compensation study that we conducted in 2022, they were pulled from previous sections of the plan that were under sections A and B, and they got pulled into the grades in order for us to comply with the Massachusetts Equal Pay Act. So we're required to provide equal pay for equal work. So they got pulled into the grades in accordance with that requirement.
Okay, thank you.
Brian?
Two questions. Thank you, Madam Chair. Jeannie, on the memo where we reference years of service, there's a boost depending on how many years of service the team member has been employed. Is that in the role generally, or is that employed as a town employee? The reason I ask is if we have like a rock star from a neighboring community that comes here to fill a void, will that person have the benefit of this, or is this only for years in Duxbury?
So, based on our ability to pay, we have to be rather conservative as it relates to items like that. So, for this purpose, these years of service numbers that I expressed are based on years of service in the specific position in Duxbury.
Okay.
So the negotiation of pay is determined by what you referred to previously. So it's,
Okay.
Your ticket to the party is your experience elsewhere,
Right.
and then there's a negotiation. So that's a really important point that I didn't make. So for example, if someone comes to our community from another community in a similar or the exact position, they are hired into the pay scale, into the pay range at a much higher location that is typically commensurate. They're typically higher. It depends on there's so many variables. It depends on the candidate pool. It depends on how difficult it is to attract and retain people into those positions. But oftentimes, part of the negotiation includes placement in the pay scale that is beyond the minimum of the pay range.
Thank you. And then the other question, and I realize tonight we're only talking about pay ranges under the personnel policy, but the question I have is with respect to the grades, the numerical grades, 15 on down, how do we determine that the various positions are in the appropriate grades? Because certainly positions evolve over time. Just to use an example, the planning director, for example, has, at least the last planning director, had quite a great deal of responsibilities in town for very important issues in town. Not to say that the rest of these aren't, but when I look and it's a grade 12 with, I mean, not that this isn't a lot of money, it is, but compared to other communities, for example, and we're still looking for a planning director, by way of something that's on our plate now. How do we go about evaluating this every year to make sure that these positions are in the right grades?
Great question. So when we initiated the classification and compensation study, we looked for the first time across 128 job titles throughout the town. So the classification and compensation study that we completed in 2022 included non-union and union positions, so that we were able to benchmark those positions both internally through a job analysis questionnaire that is a point factor system, and each person in that position, as well as their supervisor, completed a job analysis questionnaire so that we could understand the value of each position, and then we ranked those positions based on the information that we received through the job analysis questionnaire process. So that enabled us to move from a non-union pay scale of 1 through 10 to a enterprise-wide pay scale of 1 through 15 to include all of our labor position, our union positions as well. And through that exercise, we now have a methodology to maintain the classification and compensation system. And I'm in touch with the consultant frequently at no cost. It's part of the service that she provided, so that we are benchmarking our competitive set communities to make sure that we're keeping pace with the pay increases that they are providing. And as needed, every 3 to 5 years, we can reclassify positions. If, for example, someone who was in a role completed a job analysis questionnaire, but they weren't as robust in responding, or they didn't have the skills that somebody else does, we're trying to do our best to compare apples to apples so that we can come up with the most equitable outcome. So that enables us to maintain the classification system on a go-forward basis without doing a wholesale classification and compensation study.
Thank you.
I have a question, yeah. So, just looking at the last page, so it's 3% general increase to move employees within the pay range for fiscal year 24-25. Just looking at compensation schedule A, the one that kind of stands out is number 5. The inspector of animals went from $900 a year to $6,400 a year. Can you maybe just kind of explain that one?
Yes, absolutely.
That was Amy's question as well.
Yes. So that so the inspector of animals is a role that is fulfilled by our animal control officer. Most animal control officers do not complete the duties associated with inspector of animals, which includes rabies testing. So some communities contract out for rabies testing. Our animal control officer that's always been a part of his job, and he's always been paid the stipend. But what we're finding is it's requiring him to be available on a much more frequent basis than was ever anticipated because of the level of service that he provides to the town of Duxbury and the interaction that he has with wildlife, which is well beyond what most animal control officers experience. So he's, so the adjustment reflects the look back period on that kind of workload over the past year and the hours that he was required to be at work for $900 a year versus what's a much more representative number of $6,400 a year because he's constantly returning to the workplace on vacations or time off. So he's basically on call 24/7. If you ever read Duxbury Helping Duxbury, you'll see that.
I'm just trying to understand. So the inspector of animals gets a salary.
The inspector of animals, so our animal control officer
Yes.
also fills the role of inspector of animals.
Right. So there's a salary.
There's a
but-
salary,
And
but
then there's a stipend.
right.
Which is
so,
this stipend.
So it's actually not a part of his job description. They are additional duties, and that's why he receives a stipend.
And this is a more accurate budget.
It's a more accurate representation of the hours that he puts in to complete those tasks. If he didn't do this task, we would have to find someone else to do it or contract out, and it would be
Yeah.
much more expensive.
Okay. And is that, when you benchmark it with other towns, is that a reasonable benchmark with other towns that to have an inspector of animals?
Yep.
Is that the stipend they get as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We're so lucky to have him.
No, he's great. It's just a huge jump. It's
Oh, no,
going
it's
from
great.
$900 to $6,400.
Well, you'll
and that's-
notice that, some of those other pay rates are not very updated. So we did not take a look when we did the classification and compensation study because there was so much work to do. We didn't look specifically at at compensation schedule A and B, but that is
Okay.
something that we plan to do in the coming year.
Right.
Okay.
I'm sure the election warden and election worker will be looking at their
Yes.
pay per hour. Okay.
That is actually more appropriate because that is minimum wage, so we did change that to reflect
Okay.
minimum wage, but we'll re-examine it anyway.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Jeannie. Any other
And we got a
questions
town
from up
clerk,
here?
town clock custodian as well.
A what?
Yes, we are,
Town
that
clock
is few.
custodian.
Oh,
That's hard to benchmark. There are only how many in the state?
Well, I think.
Did you
in
say
terms of-
5?
In terms of town-owned clocks, it's either 5 or 7.
Yeah, we learned that last week.
In the
Wow.
town, right? In
No.
just in.
No,
in
the
any
state.
town.
In the state,
In the state.
town-owned clocks,
Town
where they
clocks.
actually have somebody, they're all electric now. They're all,
But
powered.
we
they're
have
not
one in our
Rarely wound.
Pilgrim Church.
Right, we just.
We just found that out.
Yes, and we just, there's a CPA, right? CPC article?
Yeah, yeah.
We
Yes,
just
it is.
discussed it, yes.
Good.
Are we all set up here?
Yes.
Is there
Yeah.
anybody out there in the audience that has any questions or concerns? No?
And for the record, just because we usually ask, the Finance Committee voted in favor of this article.
Oh,
Yep.
Yep.
and appreciative. Yes, we are all appreciative.
Happy to do it.
By the way, one
Of
thing
the
I did
work.
want to point out, you'll not only find the vote of the Finance Committee for each of the articles, but Mary was kind enough to add the funding sources as well.
I'm having
Yep.
trouble following this
Yeah,
over.
you need a magnifying glass.
I need another hand.
Article 4.
Cindy.
You ready for a motion, Madam Chair?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Motion, please. Yeah.
I move that the Select Board recommend to town meeting the approval of Article 4.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you so much, Jeannie.
Thank you, Jeannie.
Nice work.
All right. Good mine.
The next article, Madam Chair, is Article 5, which begins in your copy of the warrant on page 14. The numbers span from page 15 all the way through to 22. They have all been updated to reflect not just the department request, but also my recommendation and the Finance Committee's recommendation. This is probably the single largest piece of work that we do having to do with the budget. And I want to thank Mary for all of her stewardship over the past 5 months, which has been a long process. You did a hell of a job, Mary, and I'm very appreciative. The budget is balanced, as she mentioned. It's coming in at $99,575,061. And I am pleased to let you know that for the now 10th or 11th year in a row, I've got complete agreement between the numbers I presented in the Finance Committee, and they voted to approve it as well, to recommend approval as well.
Yep.
If you had a chance to visit any of the meetings during the course of the last 5 months, you'll see that they deep dive into literally every single line, and they do a fine job of it, and I'm appreciative of that.
They do.
Well,
They do. Okay, does anybody, Mary, you're not going to do a presentation on this? No.
no, it's
No.
We could go through each
We
and
could
say
go
hold.
each. Let's not- let's
99
not.
lines, brother. Get
Let's-
going.
Gardens. Welcome
Let's-
to the
I
Trophy Gardens.
might
I got time.
have to.
Let's
Get
not.
going, Mike.
Everything.
Let's not do that.
Brian's
Okay.
ready to second.
Nice one.
I did have one.
I have been
Yeah.
attending quite a few finance committee meetings, so I do try to.
Yeah.
I do have a question about coming attractions. When do we expect to hear from Chief Reardon about the rock and that piece of
It's eminent.
puzzle?
I was looking at the list of, that I had given you guys last week, which is unchanged from last week, and that's on there. I'm going to ratchet it up once we get through a few of these things. I'd like to say before town meeting, but it's most likely going to be right after.
Right.
But either way, it's on the radar. He knows about it. If I can get it before, I will. There's a possibility that I
Can
can.
you elaborate, Mike, on your question? I want to hear what you're thinking.
Yeah, it's maybe for a future discussion, but I'd like to understand how this is being funded, by the idea of the design of this being somewhat supported by the state at some point, whether we're getting that money, whether we're getting contributions from the other communities, whether this makes financial sense to do this for Duxbury to be the regional center here. Obviously, it's top flight. They do an excellent job. I just, for transparency purposes, I just want to make sure that this is the most efficient and cost-effective way of doing it, and I just wanted to hear a little bit more about that.
All right, well,
That sounds like a good plan.
but we're going to have to wait.
Yeah, it's not happening in time.
Brian?
I guess this is more an administrative question for Jeannie, well, Jeannie and Mary. So we have upcoming votes on union contracts. How do those figures relate to what we see in the proposed budget? Does the budget assume all those union contracts will be voted as proposed?
No, those are handled separately under Article 8.
Okay.
Those get blended in, so once voted, when you look at the actual budget, if you look at what the FY24 budget, when everything settles in
Yep.
with the union contracts for each department and whatnot, that's where all of that has fallen in. So if there were union contracts voted last year, they're in the FY24 number,
Okay.
so it would have changed there. So next year, just taken for an example, let's say.
Let's say police and fire,
Yeah.
lines 30 and 32,
Good
the
example.
salaries.
So, the numbers you see there now, where you see 30, call it 3.9 million.
Yep.
That number may actually change in the FY25 budget, because once Article 8 is approved, the new salaries would be blended in there, so the number could be higher. Most likely would be higher for next year.
Okay, so that then raises, I think it was Mike's or Cindy's question, which is, do we still have a balanced budget, assuming those new numbers, those increased numbers are approved?
Yes, because we have a funding source for Article 8 as well. We have funding sources for everything. To be imbalanced would mean we didn't have the money to cover the costs of either the operating or Article 8, and in this case, we do.
All right, thank you.
I hate that.
Yes, me too. All right, so, do we want to, move forward with this? Do we want to vote on it? Have we all been to
Yeah, been to the
finance committee meetings? Do we,
So I wanted to watch it.
huh?
Yep.
Yeah, so. Does anybody else have any more questions, or do you want to do a motion, Amy?
I will move that the select board recommend to town meeting approval of Article 5, the operating budget.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Awesome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Up next is Article 6, which is the capital budget. Begins on page 23 and it concludes on page 26. The total dollar amount of the proposed capital budget for this year is $4,042,180. This, too, has been through a tremendous amount of scrutiny with the Fiscal Advisory Committee, and Mary, again, leading them through the discussions on that. And again, we have agreement between myself, Fiscal Advisory, and the Finance Committee. So both Fiscal Advisory and Finance Committee have voted recommending the article as you see it here.
Could I ask a question about the handgun replacement? I think I had heard that there was a bit of disagreement on the type of the handgun. Was that?
Yeah, that was born of a conversation related to lawsuits that had been brought forth by one of the manufacturers. That issue was resolved at the Fiscal Advisory Committee level. Mary, do you have any additional details on that, if you wouldn't mind, please?
No, you're absolutely right, Rainey. There was some extensive conversation regarding the handgun replacement program. Both Chief Carbone and Lieutenant Jamali spent a great deal of time having a thorough discussion with the Fiscal Advisory Committee. There were some concerns regarding the model of handgun that the police department had selected. And based on their conversations, both the Fiscal Advisory Committee and Finance Committee felt very comfortable with supporting the proposal that was brought forth by the police department.
So it was my understanding that that was the impetus behind the concern that some of the members of Fiscal had was that there were pending lawsuits involving this particular firearm. Have those lawsuits been resolved? And I think it was kind of what I heard was, why pick a product out there in the world? There's plenty of good products to choose from. Why pick one that has multiple lawsuits regarding, I don't know whether it was misfiring or it just seems concerning.
Right. To that point, I don't want to speak for the police chief and for Lieutenant Jamali. They are experts in this field, and I certainly am not. I will say that the Fiscal Advisory Committee did raise that very issue. You're not mistaken in knowing that that was the concern. But through their research and through their proposal, the police department did address all of the concerns with respect to those lawsuits and the model of handgun that they intend to pursue, and address those satisfactorily to get the support of Fiscal Advisory and the Finance Committee.
Thank you, JR.
Jack Kent Jr., Finance Committee. It's a different model number of the gun. It's the same manufacturer, but it's a different model or series of manufacturer that cleared up the misfiring issue.
Oh,
So
okay.
they were happy with it. The police department, our police department was happy with the result.
What about all the members of Fiscal?
I'm not fiscal, so I
know.
wasn't there.
Okay, you weren't there.
Yeah.
I might,
It was supported unanimously from the members that were in there, in the room at the time the vote was taken.
okay. I guess I'd like to understand that a little bit better, but I can do that after the vote, or
Yeah, well, I think what JR is saying is it's an actual different model number. Makes a difference. Same manufacturer, different model number. Mike?
May I have a without getting into the details of that laundry list, you did provide a laundry list of items from this, I believe, these capital projects that you were going to apply for ARPA funding for. Do you anticipate having some good news for town meeting or even earlier about whether we're approved for any of that funding?
I'm working on submitting, so the answer is yes. A number of those projects will be funded with ARPA funding that we currently have in hand. And then there are a handful of those projects that will be going before the county for their vetting process. And I'm working through that right now. So the answer is yes, I do anticipate that we will have positive results before town meeting. But those projects that are going to be funded with ARPA funding are not projects that would be brought before town meeting. They don't require town meeting approval.
Oh, excellent. So those were peeled out of this budget piece.
They were, exactly.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Anybody else?
Rennie, it's just, is there a typo in this where the Land and Natural Resources, replaced the truck number 30, it has no number to it? Is that, I don't know if that's significant or not.
Show me where you are, Fernando.
On page 25 of 46.
Oh, line number, no line number.
Has no line number.
Oh, yeah, look at that. Oh, yeah, I can fix that, no problem.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Okay.
I
How are we
feel
doing
like
up
trying
here?
down and looking at the minutes.
that was
I just
really
spotted
good.
something.
Ooh. I know. Anybody, excuse me, in the audience have a question or comment on this? No, okay. We have a motion, Amy?
I will move that the Select Board recommend to town meeting the approval of Article 6, which is the capital budget.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
I'm going to abstain until I get I'm going to reach out to the police department and just get comfortable with that.
Okay, so we're moving on to 7.
Yes, Article 7, which begins on page 26 and concludes on page 27. This is the capital light, as we like to call it. The total dollar amount, excuse me, for which is $56,527. And you'll see the 8 different projects listed there, unless I have another typo in my counting. Fernando will tell me if I do. I think it's 8.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Okay.
One question, Madam Chair.
Mhm.
Item 2, police station parking lot security, is that, I presume that's cameras or something?
I believe so.
It's actually, if I may,
Yeah, fire away.
I'm sorry, it's actually fencing.
Oh, fencing, thank you.
Fencing. Where? Where are we talking fencing? And I'm just trying to envision
fencing
where that
around-
would go.
I'm sorry?
I'm trying to envision where that would go. Where does it not have fencing currently? Because on one side is all fenced because it abuts the transfer station, right?
There is, hang on, I've got to pull up my notes. If I remember correctly, Brian, it is repairs
The
to
other side?
fencing
Oh, okay.
around the perimeter. It's not, it's repairs to existing fencing.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Mary, I don't mean to disagree with you, but I thought I recalled that conversation and that there was a proposal to put up additional fencing for added security, or, which seemed, it's at the police station, right? But I believe it's new fencing.
Okay.
There's that satellite parking lot.
Right, and I forget the conversation. Anybody else? Do you
Yeah, I'm
remember,
trying to
JR?
pull up ClearGov right now to get the description, so.
That's fine. I'm sure it'll go to the planning board in the site plan amendment. So we'll see it there.
It made me wonder, why not, instead of fencing, why not put up some security cameras or if we're worried about, I can't imagine that we're worried about security at the police station, but I think that was,
Don't forget it was a crime scene once,
I think,
when the drive-by shooter pulled in there.
Oh, yeah.
I think we're all.
but I don't think the fence would have helped that particular
No.
case. I'm
No,
just
other
saying.
things were helpful to the situation, you're right, yes.
But to the next situation. Do we want to wait for Mary? We can.
I'm
Anybody?
looking thing.
That's fine. Any other comments on this small equipment?
It is,
Oh,
I got it. Purchase and install security fencing around the perimeter of the employee parking lot and public parking lot.
It's a-
There you go.
So that must be along the
It's on
side.
the, when you look at
on
it,
the
it's the
right-hand
right-hand
side.
side, yeah.
Yeah.
They got the new parking lot as well, the
Right,
auxiliary, the
right.
extension one.
Okay.
okay.
Yeah,
Thank you, Mary.
I just can't, Yeah, I'm not. I think that's, I realize that it is, how much money are we talking about?
$4,500.
$4,500, but it seems to me a few cameras out there would suffice.
Probably cost more money. Do you have a motion?
This is true. You're right. Are we ready for it? I will move that the Select Board recommend to town meeting approval of Article 7, small equipment and minor services.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, moving on to the Duxbury Beach lease.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Article 10 appears on page, oops, gotta catch up to you. Excuse me.
28.
Page 28, yes. The dollar amount is $1 million, and Mary was kind enough to provide information for this evening's meeting, which I don't know if I passed this out already, and if I haven't.
I've not seen it.
Questions were asked previously about revenues, expenses, deficits, things of that nature. And she's provided also the backup information regarding sticker sales.
Oh, my. Okay.
Did you all get one?
Yep.
Mary, do you mind walking them through this?
Sure.
If you could,
So
please.
what you have in front of you should be a two-page handout. And the first sheet in the upper left-hand corner says beach analysis as of February 9th. What this chart is illustrating for you is the sources of revenue as well as the expenses that I've taken into consideration for the operation of the entire beach, if you will, because this is including both beach ops as well as lifeguards. But what you'll also notice is that it also includes not only the direct cost of the lease, but also additional staff time. There have been, I've included specifically the department's treasurer collector's department, who is the primary responsibility for collecting and administering the program of beach stickers, as well as the recreation department. The administrative staff, both our recreation director, as well as our assistant director, do spend a fair amount of time administering programs at the beach. So I have included their staff time as a portion of their salary, as well as fringe benefits associated with a portion of their salary. So we're starting with on the leftmost column, you'll see the current year's budget, the FY25 budget that you are voting this evening. And then working our way to the right, trying to gather the history for the last several years with respect to the beach. What you'll notice is that in FY25, we are anticipating a very significant deficit where our revenues are not covering our expenses and for the cost of operating the beach. And we've seen that over the last couple of years, we have had to accelerate our level of effort with respect to manpower being assigned to the beach to administer certain programs there. Those costs will continue to escalate as we continue to provide more and more service for managing access to the beach and other expenses with respect to the beach. If you look back to, our high period, which we've talked about before, we talked about last summer, back in the FY18, FY19 timeframe, when the beach was available for, much more readily accessible use than it is today, we were seeing a very healthy return in our revenues with respect to our sticker sales, and we were able to generate a surplus through the operation of the beach, and that surplus helped to contribute to funding our town operations. As you can see, and as we've talked about before, over the years, that situation or that status of generating a surplus has certainly declined year over year, and we are in a steady period of decline where we are not able to generate sufficient revenue to cover our expenses.
Mary, just a quick question. Under the revenue, there's the beach permits, then there's beach
Yeah.
reservation, other gifts, whatever it is, there are
Yeah.
grants. Basically,
So-
we had contribution from fiscal year 2016 to fiscal year 2020, and these stopped. What exactly is that? Those
Yeah,
revenues?
so Fernando, what I have learned in the course of this exercise, so I thank Mr. McGee for actually requesting this, because what I've learned is that there's been quite an evolution over how the beach has operated, as well as how we are accounting for our revenue and expenditures with respect to the beach. Back in those earlier years that you are highlighting, the town had undertaken, or the town bore the responsibility of doing a lot of the hiring and HR functions for a number of staff members who were stationed at the beach. And as a result, we charged the beach reservation for
Okay.
those services. But when that, in FY20, when that business model changed, so we no longer took on the responsibility of hiring the bird monitors and other folks, because we were not bearing that expense, we were then not charging for those services.
Okay, thank you.
And we as a
Sure.
town made that change. That was at the time when we changed from, at one point, the harbor master ran the beach.
it's
And
correct.
then we
There's been
went, we
There's
went.
been an evolution. Yep.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that was,
I've seen 3 different iterations so
Yes.
far in the
Yep.
course of looking at this.
Yep.
Right.
Okay, but I just, I didn't understand that line, and yes, that's correct, thank you.
so back when
Sure.
we hired and managed the bird monitors,
Yeah.
well, I mean, I'm sure there's many factors here, but and for the folks who aren't looking at this, at the numbers, in in 2019, our revenue, it was we're half, less than half.
Yep.
Yep. And if I may, if I can draw your attention to the second page. So the second page is an analysis, and we have 2 different systems. One system is our point of sale system, where we actually utilize this system to sell the stickers and administer the fulfillment of those stickers. So we get one set of numbers from that system, and then we have our accounting system, which is the revenues and expenses on the first page. On the second page, what you will see is a breakdown of the number of stickers and its corresponding revenue. And so there's a more detailed chart at the top and then a summary chart at the bottom. And I think it's pretty easy for you to see that the biggest decline in terms of types of stickers where we are seeing the severe revenue loss is in that non-resident over sand component.
Yeah.
And so if you look at 2021, you'll see that we sold 2,335 non-resident beach stickers, but where we are today is at 1,446. So that choice, that lifestyle choice, that behavior choice, that luxury, we are seeing a severe decline in the non-resident beach sticker, which we would assume is due to inaccessibility of utilizing the beach for the purpose that this person, these people would like to use it for.
Yep,
Okay, may I just ask a quick question?
sure.
I noticed that there's nothing in here about added costs for police details for budget 2025. Is that
So-
just because that information isn't available yet, or?
So, Mike, I had, what you will see for FY24 is that, individual expense that I think we all spent a bit of time talking about over the summer. And that was a direct, unexpected expense that was invoiced to the town. And that was, my understanding, the first situation of its kind in recent memory. My conversation with the police department is it is somewhat difficult to pull out direct detail information because the patrol of the beach, if you will, is part of general patrol that the police department does. When there is direct expense, it is that a police officer has been called in for overtime to patrol that specific area. But when it's generally part of their sector coverage, it's not easy to discern because we're not tracking minute by minute where folks are located throughout town during their shift. I did talk with the police department, and they are looking through their overtime records to determine whether they can extrapolate that information. But because we don't typically charge town departments directly for details, it's not as readily available a data set as we would like it to be.
My understanding that in fiscal year '25, we're going to have a police officer, the school resource officer, and during the summertime is going to be working the beach, right? Is that?
Yeah, that was the whole design.
Yeah.
Was to have the person, the SRO at the schools during
Yes.
the 9 months of school, and then in the
Yeah.
off-season, they go down to the beach.
Good on the beach, that's the plan.
So that's not a separate charge to the beach, though?
No, it's part of the
Yeah,
person's
part of the
job.
Yeah.
Part of the person's job, yeah.
So
So there shouldn't be,
Right.
hopefully.
Oh, we hope not, yeah.
So it's fair to say, Mary, that there are hidden costs as well associated with pulling resources, not only just police, but also Rainey and yourself as well.
Absolutely. Mike, to answer your question, this is not a fully comprehensive analysis because it does not include things like, town council or, HR for directly. And you're absolutely right. It does not include my time or Rainey's time or other members of town administration who spend time addressing issues with respect to the beach. This is more, and because that also ebbs and flows year over year, although we are seeing us spending more and more time, we're talking about trying to potentially implement the escorting program, which in this year, in FY24, is taking more time of staff members than had been in the past, and we'll see how that program goes, whether it's going to require more time and attention going forward. But you're right, it does not account for every single penny. It is a general analysis of sort of the more obvious costs that are being attributed to or directed to the beach.
If we are going to do escorting, I presume we're doing that because we wanted to try and increase the volume of non-resident OSV stickers? Is that the intent?
Just beach patrons,
I mean, it
period.
might just,
Yeah, overstand people.
might help some people.
But back to the policing. So during the time that if I recall correctly, additional policing was necessary at a time when the oversand access was closed to Duxbury permit or beach permit holders. And it is a conversation that I would like to try to have about the costs associated with the traffic. So theoretically, the only people that are out on the beach using the road are the residents or visitors at Gurnet Saquesh. However, the town is incurring the costs of policing during some problematic times over the last summer. We also have an article in here to, put $300,000 towards our ever deteriorating Powder Point Bridge that we all love so much. It always begs the question, and I know we avoid it, and I want to bring it up again, but it seems to me that we should be able to get some monies towards these efforts from the Plymouth residents that utilize the bridge and drive over the beach. Now, whether that's through some type of an intermunicipal agreement, which I know I've never had luck trying to pitch that or a toll system. I mean, everything is electronic these days. Charge everybody a toll back and forth. There's got to be a way that we can come up with to try to recover some of these costs. It just seems so unfair. I don't have the solution.
No. but I think it's a good discussion for future.
Yes,
Yeah, I think that's,
let's put it on the
Yes,
agenda.
let's
There's a
put it
lot
on
of,
our agenda.
well,
Again,
yeah, I think it's a hornet's nest, that whole situation, and I don't think it's.
It is a
tonight's
hornet's
the
nest, and it's
nest.
not
No,
tonight,
no, no,
but,
talk about the
you know, when we
5 mile an
do,
hour.
when we do have this discussion, I don't want to
Yeah.
throw out the window without
I just-
really researching. You know, we talk about these ideas, but we never really get down into the weeds. And I do think that we need to speak to, there needs to be an intermunicipal agreement. Plymouth needs to, we need to come up with some,
Yeah.
with some real viable.
absolutely.
Yep,
Do we
and
have
I-
that on our list? You're putting that on the list, Rainey? Yep,
Jotting it down now.
all right.
And I think
Yeah.
the bigger issue here is this $649,000 issue.
It's an
I
issue. I
cannot
mean, it's,
believe that we have a beautiful beach that loses that much money. It's,
We will just put it on the list.
I mean,
Yep, yep, I
it's
agree.
just a point. I mean, and I know we'll probably hear about it in a moment, but, you know, I think a lot of this tracks with starting in fiscal year 2017 and that HCP program being implemented,
HCP, can
the
you,
permit program that we've been hearing about at Duxbury Beach Reservations forums when it went into place. And
what
the
does
idea
this
of being a
know what you're
balance,
saying
HCP, what does that mean?
habitat
Oh.
conservation.
Yeah.
Well, but what are you gonna?
Once that went into place, the idea was a balance, and clearly it's not.
That was probably a mandatory
Creating
thing. That was.
Not
part of-
creating a balance. And it's a state-run program to allow us to use the beach when there's endangered species out there. But it's costing our community a lot of money. And
Well,
I think it's just, it's, you know, I think from our perspective as a
But if
board.
we have to have a program that
Right.
allows us to use the
Well,
beach.
I think they look
could
for
just-
input,
we
you know.
could just not use
They
the
ask for
beach.
input from our community, and
Yeah.
I would ask this board to strongly consider penning a letter to Mass Fish and Wildlife about our economic concerns here, what this has cost, and Mary's done the legwork here as well, and I really, really appreciate this on short notice. But I think that we owe it to our taxpayers, our residents, because it goes beyond this number. I mean, I've read articles, I've heard from members of our business community about the economic losses they've had over the past 7 or 8, maybe 15 years. I'm not going to name all the mom and pop restaurants and stores, but this is a huge concern, and I think without a lot of rhetoric, I think a factual economic loss letter to be added to their collection so that when they do review the HCP and they do try to be truthful about, or not truthful, but to work towards this balance, that they consider the economic impact to our community. I think it's important. We don't have to go on and on about, you know, like I said, no rhetoric, but just focusing on the numbers here, because it's a data point there, and we've lost hundreds of thousands of dollars as a community just in our own town budget here.
Oh, I don't disagree with you. I mean, the numbers don't lie, and they're staring me in the face, but I don't think that, you know, these environmental groups and the state and the endangered species stuff, I think that, you know, they look at the birds, they look at that they're endangered, and I'm not sure that they care how much money how much we might be losing in revenue. I'm not sure. I
we
don't
can
think
put
they
this
do.
on for another time,
I'm
though. I
just
don't think this
asking,
is
I think it's
really,
something,
we can
I
really.
just
No,
think
no,
it's
no,
something to
no.
consider for the future.
Yeah, we can consider it for the future, but I don't think we can
We're not
discuss it too
discussing
much
that
tonight.
tonight.
Yep.
No.
But anyways, good data. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mary.
Thank you, Mary.
So the only thing we're voting on right now is our beach lease, right?
Yeah.
100,000, no,
Oh,
$1 million.
I like 100,000.
Yeah, $100,000.
Maybe we could get a discount.
Discount.
I'm good at negotiating deals, you know.
Yeah.
Could-
How about a frequent user discount? How
Yeah,
about
well,
that?
you know.
The other piece
Is
of
this
this.
negotiable?
is I asked Rainey to ask Duxbury Beach Reservation to ask a breakdown of that $1 million. They provided it to us last year, and I think it's important to know what the breakdown of that $1 million ask is, if they'd be willing to.
Oh, yeah, but, so you're asking how they spend our $1 million? Is, okay, well, that's an unusual question. You don't usually ask your landlord how they spend your rent, but,
They were nice enough to do it last year,
oh, that's
so I asked for it
very
again.
nice.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that that's really, I mean, do you have it, Chris, or do you? You do. All right. All right, thank you.
Certainly. Chris Latazzi, Duxbury Beach Reservation Executive Director. I got a phone call or an email on Friday. Not gonna lie, I was in Florida on vacation over the weekend. I can go through this and it has the numbers as well. But I'm pretty excited that we're working and talking about this. Before I get into this, I would 100% suggest that letter. That's how the HCP got started. I live on Cape Cod, and a lot of those towns rely on their parking for the summer. And they were doing everything they could, and parking spaces started to get smaller and smaller because birds were nesting there. They got so much pushback, the NHASP, that they're reviewing the whole permit. It was supposed to be good for 25 years, and the first meeting was last Thursday to do that. And they had to get permission from the feds because their permit's there. But when Rainey called me and asked me about these numbers, it occurred to me that some folks might not be in the loop of what this relationship is about. So I wanted to run through this as a very shortened, abbreviated presentation, but I know that we have some new folks here. I think the meeting is perfectly timed in 12 hours. We're about to have a storm that arrives, and I can stand here tonight and tell you without a doubt, without the coastal resiliency work that we're doing, this town would have a much bigger problem tomorrow than they're going to see. Not counting the 1.8 million in landform work that we're doing in the next 2 months. As most of you know, Duxbury Beach Reservation is a nonprofit that owns and maintains Duxbury Beach. We have a 3-part mission: preserve the landform, protect the ecology, which are animals and really grass, which holds everything together, and ensure that folks have access to enjoy the beach. You'll notice that preserve is on top because if we don't have a landform, we don't have the ecology, and we don't have the area to invite folks to come. So all of the work that we do is based on that 3-part mission. I think everybody in a town would agree Duxbury Beach is the heart of the town and central to its identity. Specifically, in fact, the town's comprehensive plan, Envision Duxbury, states that when folks move to Duxbury, or what they consider what they like most, 85% of the respondents replied Duxbury Beach. They also stated in that report, Duxbury Beach contributes significantly to the character and quality of the town. And clearly it's been like that for quite a long way. I hope nobody recognizes their car in that photo. Clearly it was going to be a lot different. It didn't happen, but in the late 1800s, the town sold the beach twice, not once, but twice to developers. And thankfully, there was an intervention, if you will, and that developer didn't build the 350 homes, which would mean that if they did, the entire area would be private, and it would look very much like Hull. A little bit of background, unfortunately, a group of forward-thinking folks. We still have several members of those families that still live in town, the 18 families that pooled their money together to purchase all of the land from the developer, intent on keeping the beach accessible. In the 1900s, that's when a couple things happened. Duxbury Beach Reservation, which was then the association, took care of the beach. The town started selling stickers in 1950 for folks parking in parking lots, and in 1961 started selling stickers to people to park on the beach. Then in the 70s, Duxbury Beach Association conveyed all of their land and rights to Duxbury Beach Reservation, and the agreement with the town was created. And this is what I think is like the busiest and the most important slide you'll probably see ever from Duxbury Beach Reservation, as there's only two people in this room, one from Duxbury, the town as representative, and one from Duxbury Beach Reservation. That was part of these negotiations. But where we started in the beginning, historically, the partnership has focused on caring for, rebuilding, and preserving the beach to provide access for us all to enjoy. But the relationship has changed over the years. In the beginning, I like to call it a triad, and that's where you had FEMA, the town, and the reservation, all part of contributing to the upkeep of the beach. FEMA covered 75% of all the storm, and the town and the reservation were responsible for covering the other 25%, as well as maintenance to the sections that they managed. The town managed part of what's under the lease now, and the reservation managed Duxbury Beach Park, which everybody knows as Blakemans and north of Blakemans. FEMA wound up in 2017 seeing all the losses that were happening from all the other hurricanes and damage and levee breaks, if you will, around the country, wound up then declaring that they were not going to be covering anything for us anymore. They declared the beach a recreational beach, and under the definition of FEMA, that they don't wind up maintaining after storms recreational beach. As good landowners, Duxbury Beach Reservation then appealed it, and of course with the court system, that took several years, multiple appeals. We went to FEMA, to the Department of Transportation, looking to see if we could overturn that decision. The answer was then no. And at the same time in 2013, you might recall that there was a storm Nemo that hit, and this caused more than $1 million worth of damage. This now means that the town owed Duxbury Beach Reservation, because now the triad has become a two-person partnership, that they owed half the cost of everything from 2007 to 2012, as well as half the cost of Nemo damages. John Madden at the time realized that in order to carry this loss and debt to Duxbury Beach, that would then incur most likely a bond rating change for the town, and he didn't want to hold that debt. So the town then came to Duxbury Beach Reservation and asked if they could get out of the agreement where they have to pay for half of it, all the costs incurred. The reservation agreed, and it was established that a new agreement would be a lease instead of a partnership. And that way, it allows the town to then manage what the costs are going to be, because the town needed to have an agreement that was predictable, as we just saw with the town budget, so that the financial contributions to the care of the beach could be planned for. The agreement was to hold the lease at $600,000 for 4 years, and then to increase it $50,000 a year until fiscal year '24. I love the email that John Madden wrote. He said at that time, he'll be in residence at the cemetery in Duxbury, and it'll be somebody else's problem. I think you all are the recipients of this. Okay. So the decision that the reservation made was that we would not increase after last year for this year, and that's why the lease remains the same. Envision Duxbury, as you know, it shows pretty clearly that the town continues to recognize the importance of preserving the beach, as evidenced by statements in the Envision Duxbury. The report names the work of DBR as implementing our conservation management plan. It also states that not only historic assets, but the importance to continue funding DBR's efforts to protect and maintain Duxbury Beach, which in turn provides the vital protection for the rest of Duxbury. Envision Duxbury set forth these goals specific to the relationship of Duxbury Beach and Duxbury Beach Reservation. And we work on these goals, which also follow under our preservation. When Chris came to me and he asked me if I'd completed the tasks for the Envision Duxbury under Duxbury Beach Reservation, I said, no, they don't end. It was to continue to protect the coastline of Duxbury. The relationship with the town is a significant contributor to DBR's ability to do the work to preserve the beach. The lease is a contribution to the maintenance of that beach rather than the partnership that was absolved when the town asked Duxbury Beach to change it. By preserving the beach, we help protect the town's coastline, the ecology that surrounds us, and the lifestyle that comes with the barrier beach. Duxbury is unique. Hull, Situate, Plymouth, Sandwich, Barnstable, all of these towns have municipal land on the coast. Duxbury is the only town that is protected by a barrier beach that's privately owned and maintained. The private ownership allows work to be done immediately, where there is a need, whether it's an emergency, proactive, or maintenance. DBR manages all of that for the benefit of the town. It may seem obvious that there's many benefits of the barrier beach, but in addition to the protection, there's two that I wanted to point out. The protection of property, whether that's municipal, commercial, or residential, coastland or inland, like the Duxbury School Complex that's built on a floodplain. The habitat for commercially important fish, shellfish among others, is all protected by the privately owned Duxbury Beach, to name a few. Investments. Over the last 5 years, DBR has invested more than $5 million in beach preservation. The number is almost close to double that. In 2024, right now, we've committed to $1.8 million in beach preservation. All of that is going towards the resident beach, as people like to refer to it. In the past 5 years, we've invested that money into the beach. In 2024 alone, that number is probably going to grow based on a project that we just realized that we needed to do in the fall, next year. The work and investment will continue because we have a plan. During COVID, DBR worked with Woods Hole to develop and design plans to obtain turn-ins for coastal resilience work on the entire portion of Duxbury Beach. Currently, Duxbury is the only beach in Massachusetts that holds permits for proactive work whenever we need to raise the road, raise the elevation, add nourishment, whether it's sand or cobble, oceanside, bayside. We have all those permits for the next 9 years. This puts us in a position to be proactive in this time of increasing storm frequency, strength, and numerous storm surges as we've seen just in the last 2 months, as well as sea level rise. We're now able to move forward opportunistically as funding and material becomes available. And material obviously refers to sand and cobble. We use these nature-based solutions as a structure because I believe that we all want the beach to be around for our different generations. These are examples of projects that we've just done in the last several years. The two that I spoke about, a beach nourishment project that started underway last Tuesday for $1.4 million, as well as protecting the small parking lot and the east abutment of the bridge that we received a small grant for, which now has, if anyone's gone there, seen, has changed the entire design of how you access the back beach. That's a perfect example of getting hit two ways. We submitted the project to be a cobble berm because the current is very great underneath the bridge. But also what was happening with the intensity and frequency of storms, we're receiving way more water than we could handle. So instead of just trying to protect the bayside with a cobble berm, the entire parking lot has started to erode. We've lost 15 feet in less than 7 months. And that's because the water capacity coming over the parking lot is taking out the dune from the east side, even though we're talking the bay side. So that small parking lot is in extreme jeopardy. Not to mention all of the different maintenance projects that we continue to do. Sand fencing, road grading, crossover work, all of this takes place in the winter. As I said, DBR's mission is to preserve, protect, and ensure that everyone is invited. But everything else, the ecology, the enjoyment, depends on the foundation of preserving the beach, which is the landform, which is why we're focused on this preservation work, using our proactive coastal resilience plan. Our partnership with the town helps make this work possible to ensure that many more years to enjoy this amazing resource and opportunity Duxbury Beach provides. Now, I know that the conversation here isn't about protection of the town. It isn't about landform. It's not talking about the schools in the flood zone. It's not talking about what happens on Washington Street. The conversation has started to change to, it's a revenue stream and we're losing money. So we put in just a slide of the amount that we're spending. So I already said that we have 1.8 being spent, and that's 65% of our entire budget for this year. In addition to the 1.8 that we're spending, we also have to spend, and Mary was right, as well as you. It was December 6th when Police Chief McDonald came in and said, I don't want to be in the bird business anymore. And that's where, instead of the town hiring people and then we paying for all the bills by being invoiced, we took over the responsibility of hiring 78 employees. So that's why that line item doesn't appear on your sheet anymore. It appears on ours. So right off the top, we don't receive $1 million. We're taking out $300,000 plus just to cover the ability for the town to sell stickers and invite people to the beach. In addition to that, we also have to maintain the landform so we can protect the town. As we know, there's not a lot of money in the town coffers, and without the coastal resiliency work of Duxbury Beach, I shudder to think what the beach would look like if it wasn't maintained. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Just while you're here, there was talk from the Mass Beach Buggy Association about offering to pay for some takes. Has that been discussed by you? You run the Endangered Species Program. Is that something that's going to be implemented in this year?
We won't need them to because of all the extra work that we have. We have credits. If you think of it as in rollover for your phone, the permit lasts for 3 years. We just ended, so we just put in a permit for the next year. The first year of your permit, you're allowed to keep your rollover points from the 3 years before, if that makes sense. So we have enough currently right now for those takes. We also have asked for additional takes,
Right.
which we still will have enough points for, if you will.
Yeah.
However, the state isn't necessarily eager to award Duxbury additional takes. And it also has to do with how many takes there are being allotted. So what the state has done is instead of allotting everybody all the takes that they're asking for,
Yep.
they track them during the beach season because 50% of the takes are never used.
If I could just clarify my question. Are you going to implement, or are you going to ask to implement that program? I don't want to get into, I am on public TV, so are you planning on implementing the program on the first crossover to help maybe alleviate some of the nesting that goes on there?
I'm sorry, I don't follow you.
The idea was to use some takes on the first crossover to rake.
Oh, are we going to be implementing pieces?
Yeah, I don't care where the takes come from. I just was wondering, is that going to happen this
That's
year?
a discussion that you would have to have with Duxbury Beach operations as well as us. That is the plan.
Right.
It is not to the benefit of what other people think.
I think that we're veering off course.
No, I agree. I'm sorry. The only reason I mention this is we are, as our piece of this is we sell beach stickers. And to some extent, it would be nice to provide the public some hope or some reassurance that we are proactively looking into ways to improve access to that oversand area.
That's a different point. And
Correct.
I'm happy to address that. I
Right.
think that now the town has decided to implement escorting. And in the past, there's been a bunch of different reasons why the town hasn't decided to do that. And if the opportunity arises, meaning birds are out of the barrier, and the mandated town limit of 30 cars or more available is met, then we would be able to implement escorting. That's where your access is going to be, on the shoulder seasons.
And that's a small amount, but I was hopeful, and I thought this was a discussion point about really putting a focus on their first crossover, like there is already a focus over by Blakeman's. Aren't there deterrences over there as well?
Blakeman's is not covered under the HCP because across the street is Salt Marsh. So deterrents that are done there are not, they don't count as takes.
Okay.
Takes are for the HCP program. But
So-
the point is deterrents are going to be used. However, folks that are interested, I'm happy to speak to you. But lease turns are the bigger issue and getting
Correct.
folks. And those deterrents you're speaking about in March are for plovers.
Right.
So raking and stuff is for deterring plovers. The access issues that'll get people on the beach faster is lease turns.
All right, so what I'm a little concerned that we are off what is on our agenda.
Those were the only two questions I had about, those were two pieces that came out from a meeting.
But I still think we're off the agenda. I think our issue here is to decide whether we're going to pay for the lease that we have agreed upon. I'm not saying that those aren't important topics to discuss. But again, I think that, we haven't given people notice that we're going to be discussing them. I don't know if
By the
anybody
way,
else
the
feels.
lease has not yet been agreed upon. That comes after the money. We seek approval.
Well,
for
no,
the funding.
I guess it was
Well,
just.
that's the other part of
The
this.
terms of the lease come later.
The
Right.
terms of the lease, but am I not correct in saying that we had made an agreement to, as Chris was talking about, to pay a certain amount of money each year, increasing it by a certain amount until we got to $1 million?
No, that was, there's a.
There's no
that's a
form
whole-
agreement,
yeah,
that's an
no,
old
there's no-
email.
There's nothing in writing on that.
The
I mean, there's an email
gentleman's
exchange, but-
agreement.
No, this is, all you're doing here is limiting it to the scope of the article itself, which is,
Right.
shall the town pay $1 million for the lease? The terms are to be negotiated afterwards. And then you're making a recommendation to the voters as to whether or not you want to
Right.
I do
recommend
have
to them
one
to do
point on
so.
this the slideshow that was presented, if I may.
Yeah.
And my previous question. I totally understand and am very, very appreciative, both as a member of this board and as a resident, for all of the work that your organization does to protect this community from a coastal resiliency standpoint. You are absolutely correct. From a straight financial position, and I don't pretend to know your finances or anything like that, I would expect that these 78 people, the 300,000 that's spent on running the endangered species program increases with additional best practices under the HCP, requirements under the HCP to provide recreation, another charge of your charter. Just to think about. But it would be nice as a partnership to also advocate with the Fish and Wildlife on any economic burdens that you're bearing because of the HCP, that it will impact all of the wonderful things that you're doing to protect the landform.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why when the town was managing it, the requirement from the state was that there were 2 people that managed every single nest. That's how you get to 78 employees, because not everyone works, no one can work 7 days a week. Everybody has days off. So it wound up being 78 people, even though we had half the number of birds. Well, now we're employing less than half that because we went to the state and said, this is crazy, you know? So we have people now that work in zones. So we do advocate. That's why I'm like, I wholeheartedly agree with you in writing that letter. That's the only thing they're going to listen to is more voices, more groups, more people having the same concerns, and that we're doing more and more and more, and it's costing more and more and more, and we're getting, if you will, a bit penalized for doing what we need to do. I think we're all in like violent agreement about that. I mean, that's why if you look at our permit, it is twice as big. We have more amendments than all the other beaches combined, looking for those, you know, I don't want to say loopholes, but acceptable practices based on what we do.
But our summer keeps shrinking from an overstand permit.
I totally understand, and that is because the number of birds has been increased. I mean, and every single beach is seeing it. You look across all of the beaches. I mean, Plymouth had 50, we had 49. I think the bigger issue is that nobody has the narrowness of our beach. Nobody has 249 homes, of which 6 are year-round homes that need access. Nobody has the situation that we have. Most people, you drive to the beach, you park, and then you either drive or walk on the beach. We're not a dead end, and that's our biggest problem. We have so much beach. And the population dynamics, carrying capacity, this is why Massachusetts went to the feds and said, we can't do this anymore. It's already outdated. It's a 25-year permit. We're 5 years in, and all the people that participate in the HCP have a higher productivity, so birds reproduce better. The whole idea with the plan was that we were going to put birds at danger. So that's why we had to pay into this program, which is not a cost that we discussed, but every token costs $5,700, and we have 16 tokens. So
You're a
that's
nonprofit.
just another cost.
It seems to me that if you kind
Sorry.
of take the birds out of the equation for a minute, because, you know, if you take the birds out of the equation and you look at the numbers and you say, oh my gosh, you know, we used to get all this revenue and now you don't. Well, I think we have to stop thinking about it that way too, because you have to look at it, what are you going to pay $1 million to save the beach, that saves the coastline, that saves so many other things? I mean, it's it's unfortunate that we've gone from a revenue stream to to having, to the cost, but still the cost seems very much worth it. And I think we have to just stop thinking about, I think those glory days are over, and it's the new reality.
I think one thing that might settle some minds is knowing that Duxbury Beach Reservation is an exceptional financial steward of the money. If you look at it, there's no other beach that has received 8 grants in 5 years, and 6 of them being from CZM. We also were picked as the best restored beach in America. We have platinum level financial from Candid that looks at all nonprofits. I mean, our work is above reproach. I have trustees of reservations, the town of Scituate. People are coming here to understand how we do our projects and then implement them. I mean, that says a lot for a beach that only has 2.1 miles of driving.
No, and we thank you.
thank you,
I
Chris.
thank you very much.
JR, sorry, go ahead.
Before JR goes, I want to point, it's a point for all of us, I think, and I appreciate what Mike's saying. I heard throughout this conversation, there were a couple of references to deterrence, which I presume means deter birds from coming in the first place. I would love to talk about that more, because when you started your presentation, that would be for another night. When you started your presentation, you cited to the comprehensive plan, and I completely agree. 83% of respondents said Duxbury Beach is the first thing that comes to their mind. I think, though, if you ask those 83% of respondents, they're thinking of themselves being on the beach, and I doubt they have an appreciation for all the points that you listed in your terrific presentation tonight. So I would love to have a further conversation. The $1 million, I think, is, we got to pay it. It goes to important preservation for the town generally. But I do think there's an element of this, to Mike's point, that we all need to get together, perhaps as landlord and tenants here, to talk about how we get more families out to the beach during the summer season. I think that's where a lot of
You mean
friction is.
driving on the beach.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yep. Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Sure, thank you.
JR.
Jack Kent Jr., 1351 Tremont Street, resident of the town. If we didn't get a penny from the beach, we would be sitting here tonight and you would still be moving this article. This article needs to be passed. The income side of it is a whole new discussion that we need to get into. There's no doubt about it. But I feel that you should just vote this in and then worry about how we're going to make the money later. But the money that you spend tonight will be saved in almost one storm when you look at what would happen if we had waves coming ashore. The beach can't do anything about sea level rise, but what it can do is it can dampen the damage from the storm and water action. And that's the most important job of that beach, whether nobody put a bathing suit on and walked on it all summer long. We still need that beach. Thank you.
Thanks, JR.
Thank
I
you.
agree. I think we're going to be seeing that tomorrow, unfortunately. Okay, can we move along and get a motion on
We
this?
have a question from the audience.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Susan Curtis, High Street. Two things. One quickly, you talked about additional revenue. I think I spoke to you about this before. There's a thing called mutual aid. There's a 6-alarm fire. All the towns come and help. Duxbury Beach, down at the Gurnet, that's not what's going on. The town of Duxbury covers all the services there because Plymouth has no access. We have the access. They're not going to drive all the way around Plymouth, across the bridge and down to Saquesh and the Gurnet. We do that. If there's an emergency, we just had a young girl that we had to med flight off of there. Duxbury did that. So my suggestion, and when I was on the town government study committee, I suggested that we ask them to give us their tax revenue. They do nothing, we do everything, and when I asked Valerie Massard at the time how much revenue was coming from Plymouth was receiving, it was over $1 million. I think we could use that. And the other thing is, we would ensure the people that are their residents would have their beach protected so that they can have access to their property. Simple. Everybody makes this sound like it's some incredible quiz that can't be accomplished. I mean, it's crazy that we're not approaching them and saying, you're getting all the revenue and you're giving no services, and we're giving all the services and getting no revenue. Make them suck it up and give us some frigging money.
Thank you.
I'm with you. I'm totally with you.
Yeah.
And you had another point.
My other point, nobody's going to be smiling. So I came to you on November 6th and asked to talk about the predation program because on June 8th, a coyote was found there, was starving to death because the mother had been shot. I asked to have a conversation at a further meeting. I heard nothing from anybody. That's part my fault. So I'm here right now to ask you to please, in the lease, put in there that we are not going to allow, I don't care what the state or the feds say, when the government tells you something insane, you need to push back. In the last 4 years, we have proof of that, of what's been going on, okay? We cannot be killing lactating mothers and leaving the pups out there to starve to death. That's cruelty to animals. If I had a pit bull in my backyard and I shot it and let the pups die, I would be charged and I would be put in jail. And the town of Duxbury needs to decide who we are. Are we going to say that's okay because the state and the feds says that that's what we're supposed to do to protect these birds? Or are we going to say, no, we're not going to do that. We'll do that prior to any pups hitting the ground. And that should be part of the lease. And that if there's a violation, if a call isn't made, a request isn't made, then the town does not pay the lease, whatever portion we decide to not pay. This is cruelty to animals.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Motion?
motion to pay
I move that the Select Board recommend to town meeting the approval of Article 10 Duxbury Beach lease.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so
Madam Chair,
good.
before you move to the next item,
Yeah.
just a point of personal privilege here. The Scouts have been here since 7.
Well, they're not here anymore.
Well, they're online too. The open forum went much longer than I thought, so I'm going to let them go at this point. I asked them to stay through annual town meeting, but the Scouts
Yes.
can go at this point, and we'll discuss at our next meeting. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Brian. Thanks. Well, that's a lot of good discussion, and we will, we will revisit all of that.
You got them to the beach.
Yeah.
That was the important one.
Got them to the beach. All right, let's see.
What do we got next? What's next?
Madam
Oh,
Chair
I don't
and members of the
know.
board, the next is Article 16, which is acquisition of a permanent access and utility easement
Yep.
related to the DPW building.
Yep.
We're in the process of negotiating the terms of the access agreement itself, the dollar amount for which is $40,000.
May I ask what the access agreement is, so if I have to recuse myself or not?
Yep. If you take a look at page 31, you will actually see the easement
Picture of it.
area that we're discussing.
This is DPW building, right?
That's correct.
Between that and the
Our
Zanetti's,
driveway
right?
is currently located and has been for many, many years on somebody else's property.
Yep.
But not yours.
I'm going to recuse myself.
Fair enough. Makes sense.
Goodbye.
Oh,
I
It's
just
not my
want
property.
to,
Neighbors, I think.
could I ask a question about this? So we're not moving any lot lines. This would be an easement, because I'm assuming we may make that other lot non-conforming if we were to take the property. Is that?
That and the cost of doing so would be pretty high. So the easement was the best vehicle at this time to do it. We had hoped, excuse me, what we had hoped to do was to realign the driveway, but the cost was prohibitive. We wanted to move the driveway onto the town property and then cut back the hill, but the cost to do so was
More than
a
40,000.
lot more than 40,000.
Okay.
okay.
All right, so this is just the same as it was, only we're now formalizing the fact that we're having an easement, and we're paying for the privilege.
You have crystallized my thoughts.
All
Yes.
right.
And even if we had argued that somehow, some land use lawyer says we have a prescriptive easement through more than
Yes.
20 years' worth of use, you'd only get that through a judicial decree, and you'd spend more than 40,000 in a lawsuit to get that done,
Right.
so.
That is correct.
And
Right.
presumably, we don't want to be adversarial with
No,
the Zanetti family.
Mr.
here.
Zanetti's been a good neighbor for many,
Yeah.
many years.
And the easement will run with the land,
Yes,
not
ma'am.
just the owners.
That's correct, forever.
Yeah, one-time payment easement, it's not
Right.
not a lease.
Right.
Wouldn't be
Correct.
an annual lease.
That is correct, excuse me.
All right, so
right.
do you want a motion on this one, or are we going
I
to
would.
wait till you're done negotiating?
I have a question, though, before, town council, have they drafted
Oh, yes.
this lease? So it's going to be
They
for
are.
all purposes, not just to pass and repass, it'll be utilities, all that
Everything.
stuff? Okay,
Yep.
great,
Okay.
thank you.
Anybody audience have anything to say to this? No? All right,
I
motion,
move-
please.
I move that the Select Board recommend to town meeting approval of Article 16, the acquisition of a permanent access and utility easement for the DPW building.
Second.
Sorry, just for the discussion, just for clarification, the Finance Committee hasn't got around to voting this, or there's an issue?
No, because you're first, just in the pecking order.
Thank you.
Just
Yep.
lined up that way.
Lined up that way. All right, thank you. Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, he was looking through the window, but he seems to.
I don't think they voted on this one either, because the last I knew, there wasn't a,
Action hadn't been taken yet, but we'll wait for Mike to return, and I'll tell you all about that
Yeah,
one.
okay.
there was
And the
no
next one you'll be looking at is Article 27.
27?
27, I thought it was 28.
Oh, there you go, 28, thank you. See, told you.
Girl Scout House.
Girl Scout House, and
More
the
info?
CPC has voted to recommend indefinite postponement.
Oh, good.
That one has been indefinitely postponed for quite some time.
I
It's a repeat
move,
offender.
I move
Really?
that the
was
Select Board recommend to town meeting indefinite postponement of Article 28, the rehabilitation of the Girl Scout house.
I'll second that, but can we have a little bit of discussion? Why?
Because I think it has, because our town facilities
We didn't have any
manager.
bids, we had no idea of the scope.
Yeah.
It was a very amorphic project
So
to
you
begin
couldn't do
with.
it even if it's.
It's timing,
Don't
right?
have
It's
anybody
not
to
that-
run it.
That and the scope, we didn't know
Yeah.
what the scope was, it wasn't
Fine.
clearly defined.
Yeah.
So we have a motion and second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, wow.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the
It
board.
was an indefinite postponement, we're always up for that.
That brings us into the special,
Special,
Yeah.
yes.
and you'll be looking at 7 of the 8 articles here. So the first article is supplemental appropriations, the dollar amount of which is $156,320.
Any discussion on this?
Yeah, what's it for? Sorry?
Supplemental appropriations.
The
So
purpose
that's
of the
for
article
bills
is
that
to
weren't-
supplement a number
Yes.
of line items in the current year, fiscal year's budget in order to fund a number of additional expenses associated with various town departments.
Yep. Do we have a list of those?
Yeah, it's in the
I
warrant.
do.
Mary does.
Mary,
Should be in the warrant,
I
right?
can
see it
either
in
read
the
it,
warrant.
I can read it.
Paid bills he's
I
referring
can
to.
either read it to you or I can show it on my screen, but essentially it is 6 line items that we need to address potential deficits in the FY24 budget. Funding source will be free cash, and in order of magnitude, first line is $100,000 for the fire department for overtime.
Could we
They
see
have
it
been
on,
seeing-
I'm sorry, Mary, could we see it while you're walking us through?
Yep, do I have the ability to share my screen? Let's try that.
The public can see it.
Thank you, Mary.
did I?
Can you guys see?
Yep,
May want to zoom in just a
Okay.
touch, Mary. Thank you.
Okay, then I don't have to read it to you. There you go.
Perfect.
well,
Um,
okay.
So fire department overtime, they've been experiencing some extraordinary call volumes. They've had some injuries that they have needed to cover, and they are seeing that there is a lot of downward pressure on their overtime. Same thing with police department, so that makes up the bulk of the supplemental appropriation request. This line item here, what was brought to my attention as soon as I had arrived in Duxbury, our town accountant had indicated to me that it looked like there was some type of an error with the beach ops budget for last year, that the full salary for the director was not budgeted. May have been a holdover from when it was not a full year-round position, but that there will be a shortfall in that budget that we need to address. There was a COLA adjustment for the one person who is receiving a non-contributory pension. And this is a 100-year-old person who is receiving non-contrib pension, and there was a $3,500 COLA adjustment that was unbudgeted in the FY24 budget that needs to be addressed. Veterans Services Department, we had a retirement, and the subsequent director who was hired at a higher salary, and we need to address that in the FY24 budget. And then lastly, there was a CZM grant, the Coastal Zone Management Grant for beach nourishment. The town had needed to come up with a match for that grant, and that match was $5,300 short, so we need to make that up at special town meeting. So that comprises the supplemental appropriations.
Madam Chair, can I just inquire on that planning CZM grant? So we don't have a planning director and we're not paying a salary. Does that budgeted salary go into free cash?
So I cannot move money from salaries to expenses. Well, unspent, the short answer to your question is yes. Unspent appropriations will fall to certified free cash at the end of the fiscal year. Yes.
On that same line item, last year, we were the recipients of a grant that we needed to spend by June 1st. Remember that one? I don't
It
remember.
wasn't a grant, it was a earmark.
Yeah.
Earmark.
Yeah, and we did spend it.
And we did spend, I remember, but we really weren't sure what we were going to spend it on.
Oh, we were. I came in and did a whole presentation on it, gave you an email, lengthy thing, yeah. It was $90,000, and I think I spent $89,000 and some change.
Yeah, it was, it was.
Tide gauge down at the Harbor Master, a number of things.
Yeah.
I do remember that.
Yep.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then
All right,
that's
so
what-
Woods
that
Hole Group
wasn't,
had
that
a
wasn't
number
this.
of
Woods
things.
Group,
this line.
Yeah,
Coastal zoning.
Coastal zone, yeah, we did.
yeah.
All right, so this wasn't anything to do with that.
No.
No.
So this
No,
was.
This is
No,
for the
it's different.
sand. We used our matching grant funds, and you're saying there was a shortfall. Because we
ran out
bought-
of
Is this the
money.
sand?
This is the $2 million in sand that was put out at Bay Ave, right?
Is that what
Yes.
yeah, that's what I thought.
It's the coastal zone management grant that I'm referring to is the grant that is in conjunction with the town of Marshfield.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a $3 million worth of sand, beach nourishment.
Okay.
We do some nice things for our coastline.
Absolutely.
I think more troubling for me is the overtime in both the fire department overtime. $100,000 is a lot of money in overtime, and I know we did have it, some extraordinary events.
Yeah, I think that is a lot to do
Is
with
that is that the reasoning behind this, and is there a concern that this type of overtime is going to continue because?
Yes.
Yes,
Because of the staffing levels
yeah.
and the
That's what
call volume. It's a
that's-
direct correlation.
Chief Reardon made that point at the Finance Committee when he presented his budget, that he needed more people.
I would love to have, I did not hear that one.
And their call volume continues to increase.
Yeah,
Crazy.
There's no slowdown.
yep. So
Um,
basically, he's not, asking for people this year, but he will be
Contemplating
table
it.
next year.
Yeah, contemplating it.
Well, it's
You
costing
pay
us,
it
if we're
overtime, you
paying
pay it bodies.
overtime,
Oh, I know, yeah,
sometimes
yeah.
overtime is more,
More expensive than salaries.
Yeah.
than
Is,
salaries. And I don't know if there's any ability to hire part-time firefighters, as opposed to having full benefit fire.
We'll talk about that next year.
I think maybe Mary or somebody might have remembered this from that meeting, but are we hit by this EMT short, like over demand
Oh, God,
and shortage of people? Are we doing out-of-town calls and things of that nature? Is that part of this overtime?
Well, yeah, we've been participants in mutual aid for decades.
Right.
Yeah. They help
Because, I mean,
us, we
that's a
help them.
statewide concern. I mean, there's been some terrible incidents, and it's, yeah.
I think it's safe to say there's a number of contributing factors, but as Rainey has indicated, call volume is the primary issue. And second to that is backfilling for long-term injuries that we, have experienced.
Yeah.
But call volume is definitely an issue. It will be a conversation that we will be having with the fire department as we start to move into the FY26 budget season. It's a situation that is not going to go away, and we need to address it.
What was the police, just for the sake of going down the list here?
Same thing. A lot of the calls that our fire department is responding to, our police department is responding to as well.
They usually get there
It-
first.
It's driven by call volume.
But plus also there's some guys out on long-term disability as well.
Well, we also
There
can't
are.
use specials because of, is that the other piece of this, is we finally implemented the crime bill, and we cannot use specials anymore, and for overtime? Is that part of this as well? I'm looking at Mary, so I know you
Oh,
can't tell. I'm
sorry,
looking
that
at
was
you.
not part of my conversation with the chief, and I don't think that we've fully seen the impact of implementing post yet.
Yeah.
Because you were using specials up until recently,
Right.
and so we have not experienced what that implication is going to be.
Okay, we all set?
Yep.
All right. Amy?
I will
Motion.
move that the select board recommend approval to town meeting of Article 1 in the special town meeting, supplemental appropriations.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Randy, you didn't hand out a copy of the special, did you?
Oh, well, I emailed it. Sorry, I've got them sitting right here. Anybody need one? Yeah, that would help. huh?
That's right on my screen.
I've got one on my screen too, Brian.
Well,
You two or something. Here's for the.
it's just too hard. Everything's just too hard right now.
Right, not just
Especially
myself.
when it comes, emails from Rainey with attachments and some from Michelle with attachments.
It just gets too
It's
complicated.
too much.
You're too helpful, Rainey.
Yeah, sorry.
You gotta knock it off.
I'll pull back on that.
No, don't, no.
So, Article 2 on page 3
Yep.
are the unpaid bills, of which there are 8, and they total $3,897.93.
Yeah, and we have to pay them
We have to
because
pay them.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
there's no question, we have to pay
Does
them.
anybody want to discuss it? No, thank you.
I think we just vote.
I'll move that the select board recommend approval to town meeting of Article 2, unpaid bills in the special town meeting.
Actually, I do have a question, actually.
Fire
So
away.
so what's the Harbor Master doing on Amazon.com?
Buying $44.99 worth of stuff.
Is that part of procurement? I mean,
Absolutely.
Is that right?
At that rate? Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, we utilize Amazon.com for a
All the
wide
time.
variety of purchases.
Yeah.
All right, well, it's good.
Supplies
Yeah.
through our organization.
Yeah, okay, no, I just,
Yeah, it's smart.
yeah, no, it's fine.
Well, to be clear, I mean, we're not just waving our hand and saying it's only $3,800. I mean, somebody looked at this and confirmed that these are all.
Yeah.
yeah.
These
Think
aren't, these
Well, no,
aren't, these aren't sitting here if they're not bona fide. I mean, we.
That's my
yeah.
point. That's my
Yeah.
point for the viewing public,
Right.
of which there
Oh,
are
I see
legion.
the-
Yeah. Yes.
It's not like we're just saying, oh, it's only $3,800.
Right. No,
We
no,
don't
no.
care. We're just going to
Yeah.
vote
No, we
it.
do care a lot.
We care. I care about every penny. as
exactly.
do
I
you.
totally
Yes.
care about every penny. It kills me
Yes.
up here to be spending all this extra money.
And that's why I asked the question about Amazon.com. Making sure,
Amen.
okay.
Yep.
Was he
All
buying
right.
batteries? Good, sir.
All right. Did we have a motion?
Yes.
You already
Yeah.
voted.
Why did we
All in
need
favor?
Waltham Pest Services?
All in
move on, move
favor?
on.
Aye.
Next time you're in the
Aye,
office,
aye,
I'll show you why.
Aye, we're all ayes.
Aye.
Okay.
Guys have it.
The next article is Article number 4, the payment of debt service related to the purchase of the Ricker property. This transfer is going to pay off the remainder of the bond anticipation notes related to the purchase of the Ricker property that was approved in Article 2 of the town's special town meeting on October 17th, 2022.
And how much is this amount that we're paying off?
$600,000.
And this is coming from,
The source is sale of real estate, $858,000, and CPC undesignated fund balance of $14,000.
it's nice to see a project come full circle.
Yes.
Yep.
Not even that long.
That is excellent.
Yeah, and just to
Yeah.
give a shout out to, well, I guess finance or Mary. I was on a MMA webinar about municipal finance recently, and one of the points made is that bond anticipation notes are something that can be used, but typically only the more sophisticated towns
Ooh.
use those, and they're not typically used, and those who use them, it's usually favorable terms to
Yeah.
the town. So when I saw a bond anticipation note here, I just want to tip my hat, such as it is, to finance for using that vehicle.
All right, thank you.
Nice.
Thank you.
All right, I will
Motion.
move that the select board recommend to town meeting the approval of Article 4, payment of debt service related to purchase of Ricker property to town meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
One
Thank you,
thing.
folks.
Books.
Up next is Article 5, OPEB, other post-employment benefits, and we're funding that to the tune of $300,000.
That's a regular occurring.
Yes, it is.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll move that the select board recommend to town meeting the approval of Article 5 in the special town meeting,
OPEB.
OPED,
Yep.
OPEB.
Second.
May I just have one discussion point on this? This comes up at town meeting a lot. And is there going to be a discussion about our liabilities and how we're meeting this with this $300,000 at town meeting?
Yes, it's actually in the explanation.
I know, but there's often a question about whether we're doing enough to contribute to this.
We usually field them on an as-needed basis, rather than do a presentation on it in advance,
Okay.
just to expedite town meeting, because it does go long. But we are happy to answer any questions that come to us. That's why we try to give as much in the explanation as we can up front. Our presumption is that the explanation helps clarify any questions that might arise.
Well, let me start with this. Mary, do you think this is a healthy amount to put towards this, the OPEB account?
I think the short answer is yes, every community does what it can.
Right.
Duxbury is certainly funding to a level that's higher than some other communities, but is funding at a level that's below others as well. I can tell you that the city of Watertown has fully funded their OPEB obligation. They did that several years ago, but you've got to remember that a community like that is a community that has a very high volume of commercial property. So we do the best that we can, and at $300,000, I think that is a very solid contribution to address our liability.
All right,
Thank you.
I believe we have a motion in a second.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay,
I
no
just want, I
problem.
know I interrupted your
No.
process there.
No,
What
not at
is
all.
the
I
full
just don't
amount
think we
to
need
fund
do it
this?
again,
What
that's
would
all.
the
68 million.
$68 million?
8 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Up
Okay.
next is Article 6, Stabilization
Down for a
Fund.
year.
We're recommending $250,000 being put toward that.
The stabilization fund, right?
Yes, sir.
So I have a question, Mary, about this. We have a lot of money in our stabilization fund. What is the recommended amount or percentage or whatever to have in that fund?
So again, to Rainey's point, there is a description that follows this article. Typically, best practice is that a town should aim to have 5 to 10% of their general fund operating revenues, net of debt service, saved in their
Thank
general
you.
stabilization account. And this would put the town at just over 8%.
Okay, and what is it right now?
Right now, it is 6.4 million, and this would put us at 6.67
No,
million.
what is the percentage right now?
8.17.
Right now you're at 8.1, and this would advance us up to 8.2. So remember that our budget changes every year, so when you talk about a percentage of gross revenues, that revenue is increasing annually. So the percentage does not, our contribution does not grow at the same percentage.
Okay.
So right now we're at 8.1, and by supporting this, it will bring us up to 8.2.
Okay, so not a huge increase.
Not a huge increase.
Okay, I asked that only because we're going to look at matching grant funds on Article 8, and I appreciate the fact that that has gone up to 250
Yeah.
from
Yay.
the 200 that it was. But it seems that we maybe could use even more money in our matching grant funds. Because, look at Snug Harbor, for instance, and the January storm, or God knows what's going to happen tomorrow. We have a lot of projects, in my mind, that are likely going to arise that we're going to need to get grants for. And we have used up our amount that we had accrued on the beach nourishment. So in my mind, it seems that would be money better spent to have more money in that fund than to go up 0.1% in the stabilization fund.
Can I respond to that?
Yes, please do.
Okay, I am very, very reluctant to support that notion, Cindy, only because contributions to a general stabilization account is the number one thing that a bond rating agency looks at for our community, and the
Okay.
second thing that they look at is our support or contributions to OPEB. So
Okay.
making sure that we continue to have a consistent level of resources being devoted to those savings accounts, if you will, are extremely important to our very strong bond rating.
Okay. Okay.
What are the terms or the conditions by which you remove funding from the stabilization fund? What?
2/3 vote at town meeting.
All right, 2/3, right. And then what are the projects it can go towards?
It can be utilized for any legal
Anything.
municipal expenditure,
Even-
but you would not be using it to balance your operating budget.
No.
Oftentimes I'm sorry, Vinnie, go ahead.
No, go ahead, you're right.
It's,
Yeah.
keep on going, because that was a key point right there.
It's for emergencies, so here, number one example would be for a settlement, like a legal settlement.
Right.
Is not being able to be funded out of your operating budget. Another one would be emergency expenditures. Let's say we did have storm damage. Let's say we had some sort of breach from our barrier beach and we needed to remediate. The general stabilization could be a place that we could fund from. So it's something that is out of the ordinary or very temporary in nature when we would also develop a plan to replenish those funds back into the stabilization account.
Right.
And if memory serves, we've only hit it once since I've been here.
Yeah. And basically needs a 2/3 vote for a annual town meeting anyway, or at a special convened town meeting. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. So we can't use it for matching grants.
No, I mean, you can't do it for a project.
No,
No.
no.
I agree that, I agree that we need to, we want to keep a good bond rating, and we want to
Oh,
keep money in the
absolutely.
emergency coffers, and, we want to put as much money towards this OPEB as we can.
Yep.
But I also agree that we really do, we have a lot of issues facing the town that are going to require grants, and we need to be applying for grants. We need the grant money. And if a portion of money is, if it costs a little bit of money to get a lot of money, it's money well spent.
So basically, with that 250, we have no money left, right? Is that, or we have some in reserve? Mary?
No, we don't have
So
anything.
right now, what the town had done in FY '21, '22, and '23 is that you had allocated $250,000 annually in each of those years. And in FY '24, you utilized all of it. So you did not utilize it when it was originally appropriated. But at this time, there are no funds left in those grant matching articles.
Yeah, no, sorry, I didn't ask my question clearly, right? So right now, we have a balanced budget with that 250. If we were to increase it to, say, 350, we would no longer have a balanced budget. Is that right?
So the funding source for this grant match article, the funding source is free cash.
Free
So
cash.
it's not in the budget.
So is there any free cash left?
So there is a little bit that is being held back as a financial flexibility and is a generally good accepted practice not to spend every nickel of free cash.
Yep, fair enough. And how much is that left with that 250? How much free cash we got left?
I have reserved 10% of our certified free cash, which is $370,000.
Okay.
All right.
Yep. Thank you.
Sure.
So
Anything else?
basically, we're at the limits, no more.
Yeah.
We can't put another penny in. That's what I'm hearing.
Mm-hmm. You're correct.
Unless we take it from somewhere else.
Correct. Correct. Okay.
All right.
I think if you let me get to my manager's report, you'll see a lot of things answered that you brought up.
Alicia?
That's, you know something?
Much.
We are on the ball, Rennie, in other words, right?
Indeed,
We're
sir.
all over it. That's exactly right. That's good to hear.
It's growing a money tree out back.
Alicia?
Alicia Babcock, 9 Ocean Road South. I just wanted to say, first of all, this has been a great meeting. I might say something a little unpopular right now, but just in listening to some of the Finance Committee meetings that have gone on over the past couple of weeks, I know that we've been setting aside $300,000 for the bridge repairs, but it seems like we're on track for maybe Mass DOT to replace the bridge in fiscal '25. How critical are those repairs in this coming year? Like, is there any
Without
chance
them, the
that we
bridge
could-
will close.
we can't take that $300,000 and put it
No.
toward?
It's part of a program
Oh, it's part of a
that
program?
we established 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay, because I was going to say, it just seems kind of like we're spending
Right.
money and it's just going to get ripped out, so.
Right.
Rainey, just on that point,
Okay.
when are we?
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I interrupt your last thought?
The question was answered.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Rainey, on that point about the bridge, when are we doing those repairs? It went late last year. It went into April.
This year, we're going to push them off by a year because of the timing of the bids.
Great. So there will be no bridge closures
Correct.
this year. Sorry, 9:30.
It's okay.
No, it's getting
Okay.
late.
So wait a
Okay.
minute, so we're
It doesn't mean the money's sitting there waiting to be spent somewhere else. It's still going to stay right where it is for the bridge.
Okay.
It's in an article, Article 6, capital.
okay.
Just a sequence of when it
It
gets
just
spent.
seemed a little contradictory to the way that we just answered
So I-
Alicia's question, which was the bridge needs the repairs now. However, we're not doing the repairs now.
Right, the timing's going to change. It might be the fall. If I can't
I
remember.
think it's October.
Thank you. It's the fall, not the spring. Sorry.
Okay.
Maybe make it late October, so we can get a few more bonus days out there on the beach.
We'll call you first, Mike, don't worry.
I think we're on Article 6 still.
Stabilization fund.
Maybe we could get a motion on
I
that?
move that the Select Board recommend to town meeting the approval of Article 6, Stabilization Fund, and the special.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Up next, Madam Chair and members of the board, Article 7, accrued liabilities and compensated absences. And for this, we're recommending $125,000 using free cash.
Yep.
So,
Explanation there.
So they're for terminations,
Separations.
retirements.
Yeah, if somebody retires and they're owed money on the way out, this is the pool of money we use instead of hitting their operating budget for the department from which the employee came.
Right.
okay.
That is pretty much the
And,
simplest
and
way
there's
to
a
put it.
policy which governs the amount and that,
Mhm.
yep.
Are you ready for a motion?
Okay, yep.
I move that the Select Board recommend to town meeting the approval of Article 6 and the special stabilization.
Seven.
Oh,
Seven.
7, accrued liabilities and compensated absences fund.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
And finally, matching grant funds in the amount of $250,000.
Okay, again, thank you for increasing it to 250.
And there could be an amendment on town meeting floor.
As long as somebody's got a funding source. Yep.
Yep.
Still could be an amendment on town meeting floor, you never know.
You never know. All right.
I move that the Select Board recommend to town meeting the approval of Article 8, matching grant funds in the special town meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so now I think we need a couple of votes to close some.
I move that we close the special town meeting warrant.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And we need to vote to sign.
Ooh, nice.
Are we done voting on the?
No, there'll be more, but it doesn't matter. I just need you to sign it.
We can sign it without closing it?
Yeah, no, you already did.
I need a lawyer.
No, the ATM.
You already closed it. You closed it already. You closed it back in January. You're just voting positions at this point.
Okay, yeah, right, thank you.
These are for the motions that'll be broadcast up on the wall.
What else do we have remaining?
It's on the list, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I just put mine away.
Good things.
There's only a few.
Just the union.
Just a couple
I think
of
so, yeah,
things.
just a couple.
We're doing that on Thursday. Yeah.
Okay.
Is that it, Nancy?
Would it make more sense to sign it after we've
No,
voted
I
on
need
those?
it because we have to get it posted. It has to be signed tonight. All you're doing is voting positions on these things. They have nothing to do with actually being included in the document
Got it.
itself.
All right.
All right, so I guess I have to move this. I move that the Select Board sign the March 9th, 2024 annual town meeting warrant.
Second.
All in favor?
And I move that the Select Board sign the March 9th, 2024 special town meeting warrant.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that was great. Thank you, everybody.
Mhm.
Town managers report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to let you all know that due to the impending storm forecast for tomorrow, Duxbury Town Hall, Duxbury Schools, the Senior Center, the pool, and the free library will all be closed tomorrow. We're expecting accumulations 8 to 12, winds 20 to 30, gusts as high as 50 miles an hour. Astronomically high tides and power outages are also of concern. And given these conditions, we expect travel to be very difficult, and we encourage everyone to stay off the roads until the storm has passed. Also, just to dovetail into that, the Conservation Commission meeting for tomorrow night has been canceled, and any of the hearings that were associated with that will be rescheduled to their next regularly scheduled meeting on February 27th. You mentioned the Beach Nourishment Project earlier. An update on that from Leslie Fields, our engineer of record on the project. The 2024 Marshfield-Duxbury Beach Nourishment Project will be wrapping up this week. Trucking is scheduled to end on Monday, February 12th, while sediment placement activities are expected to be completed by Friday, February 16th. Please note that Duxbury Beach Reservation commenced a separate nourishment project this week, which was actually last week. This resulted in a significant increase in trucking activities. Correspondingly, we've received an uptick of resident complaints this week. But up until that happened, the DPW had logged very few complaints about our project, the two-town project. Overall, the beach nourishment project has been a success. The contractor has worked efficiently and is on track to complete the project over a month ahead of schedule. Additionally, they ended up placing more material on the beach than originally anticipated, 115,000 tons of sediment. The project team is planning to hold a post-construction information session to review the results of the project.
Rainey, is it going to wash away? Do you think? No.
Well, not tomorrow, but
tomorrow,
in time.
Maybe tomorrow. I mean, it would be horribly tragic
just,
to have it wash away tomorrow.
I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, it's going to move. It's not going to wash away. It's going to move. It's going to relocate. So there you go.
Down south, so it'll still be on Duxbury.
Yeah,
There's a ways to go.
it'll be here for a
Get
while.
Marshfield sand.
It'll be here
Get
for a while.
Marshfield sand, we'll get an hour beach.
Yeah, it's
and then
all
It's all coming down to us.
Someone had mentioned at one point a question regarding our earmarks.
Yes.
That was me. Oh.
Back in January, I had sent an email to David Amory from the Coastal Resiliency Task Force. And this email said the following. Finance Director Mary McKinnon and I have been talking about the governor's recent 9 C cuts, which were made that week, and the adverse impact that the action had on Duxbury's earmarks. We had requested $25,000 for furnishing for the Duxbury Student Union Association, $60,000 for the support of grant funding and personnel efforts in Duxbury, i.e. a grant writer, and $50,000 for fire safety and equipment improvements at the Duxbury Fire Department. And there was a whole list associated with that. All of those were reduced by 50%, which meant that we only had $30,000 available to us for as an earmark for grant writing. I'm going to pause right there, and I want to let you know that Chief Reardon let me know last week that he was pleased to announce that we've been awarded $18,970 from the Department of Fire Services in a competitive grant, which will be used to purchase fire boots. This grant was written...
What?
Boots.
Boots.
Yep. Boots on the ground. This grant was written by firefighter Kevin Heath and administered and submitted by Karen Keneally. Grants like this are important to help with the purchase of critical firefighter gear and to take some of the burden off of our citizens. So my thanks to them for doing that. So with that $30,000 available in the earmark for grant writing, at this point, 2 projects were submitted to our office. The first was a proposal from the Coastal Resiliency Task Force for a public education and signage campaign, and the others was a proposal to hire a consultant to assist the town in seeking additional grant funding through a number of sources, most notably, excuse me, the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities Grant Program, the BRIC Grant Program, which you've heard Alicia and Candace mention over the past few months, which is administered through MEMA and FEMA. Per their website, the BRIC Grant Program supports local communities and hazard mitigation projects by reducing the risks from disasters and natural hazards. For the past several years, the Seawall Committee has had numerous conversations about seeking funding through the BRIC Grant Program, which is quite involved, and they have found a consultant to assist the town in this process. While the Woods Hole Group project for Coastal Resiliency Task Force, called Rising Tides Sign Project, Duxbury's Coastal Resiliency Through Time, is certainly noteworthy and important, hiring a firm to pursue additional grants, which could result in the town possibly receiving additional funding for hazard mitigation projects, including the full administration of all aspects of those grants. It makes greater sense to follow that course at this time. And that's exactly what I did. In fact, Candace was kind enough to get in touch with, my God, his name just escaped me.
Chris Spillman.
Thank you. Chris Spillman, who had helped Nancy chase down additional money through FEMA. I signed a contract with him. He's going to be helping us seek grant funding related to seawall replacement only at this time. If there is another possibility of receiving further earmarks, he's going to expand this, and he gave me a complete comprehensive approach to chase down. He's going to be chasing down BRIC money. He's going to be looking at FEMA money, MEMA money, any avenue. He's the guy. So what I wanted to tell you is we're chasing down grant money, more grant money using earmarks at the moment.
Fantastic news.
So there you go.
And this is, but
I've
this
been
is
waiting all night
just
to tell
for
you that,
the
so.
seawall,
For
and
this
this
part,
would reimburse.
But
the-
while he's doing that, he's also going to be sniffing around to see what other opportunities there are out there. So if I need to have a little bit of grant money, hopefully town meeting's going to approve the 250,000. We've
Yeah.
at least got that.
Oh, I
Because
agree.
If you got a $1 million project and you got to have 25% of it, we'll have that in hand. So I don't know what the project is. We're going to find out together.
But
So-
if it's, but if it's for the seawall, we can match it with the money that's already been appropriated through the special.
If it is appropriated, yes.
It's just for the
If
seawall.
the voters approve it.
Right, but what, and, right, and
Like a
it'll
grant.
reimburse or
Yeah.
or
It could, yeah,
some
that's
of
the whole
some of the
idea.
costs that we've already.
It's money to basically prime the pump. That's what we're doing. We're priming the pump here.
So I think that I'm happy to hear that, but I also am also happy, when I think about the members on our fire department that are actually seeking grants to buy boots.
Oh, and they have for years. They're wonderful at
That is
chasing
great.
down
I would,
grant.
let's give them a,
And the-
a round of applause there, but I also.
Currently, the police department does a terrific job doing it too. When there's an
Police does it as
opportunity,
well.
Right,
they
and
look for it.
and what I'm trying to do is say, I think that that's terrific, and I would encourage all of our departments, I've often tried to, brainstorm how we can obtain more grants without, haven't been very successful in trying to get a consultant to, whatever to, but, maybe, they teach an English class at the high school, and they can do a project where they apply for some grants, and,
Yeah, absolutely.
it's got to be a skill that, so I applaud these departments that are doing it, and I hope others will follow suit.
Could you give me the fire department again? It was 50 and then cut to 25?
Mhm.
And then backfilled with 18 through this grant?
Yeah, I don't know if it was the same stuff that they wanted. I just know that they had another grant out there that they chased. So I don't know if it was the same items.
What were they going to buy at 50?
That's what I don't know.
I can speak to them.
Oh, there you go. Here's Mary.
Okay.
Hi, guys. So I have had numerous conversations with the fire chief. The fire chief intended to utilize the earmark for two purposes. Number one, he brought a leadership program, professional development program here to the town of Duxbury, and it was opened up to a number of our staff members who took advantage of a high caliber leadership program. And then the other part was to address some needs within the fire department's weight training room, the exercise and equipment room. And so although they were earmarking the more than they have today to address issues in their weightlifting room, they will be able to get by with the remaining earmark that they do have.
All right, so the cut in the earmark doesn't materially affect what their plans were, and in addition, they were able to get the grant for 18,000 for boots, which is a separate
Yep.
project,
It was a
okay.
separate issue and a separate win for us,
Got it.
yes.
Thank you.
Are you done with your report, Randy?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
Alicia?
I just wanted to say, Rainey, thank you.
yeah,
This
you're
is,
welcome.
this is amazing. Just wonderful news.
And my thanks to Candace
I
as
just,
well.
I haven't spoken to Candace this week, so I didn't know this.
She was on
This is-
vacation the last couple of weeks,
This
so
is,
I actually bothered her
this
being
was news
on
to me, so
vacation.
thank you. I did have one question about the nourishment wrapping up. Do you happen to know, were we successful in utilizing all of that grant money, or did we leave anything on the table? I know there was like a question with the original.
I'll find out. I don't know
Okay,
off the
all
top of my
right.
head.
With the amount of sand, we want to make sure we use it all, if possible.
Yeah, I think we used it all because we had a deficit we had to pay.
Yeah, there was
An
a possible
additional-
discrepancy that that we would wind up with because of with the material available.
Yeah.
So I just was wondering if we could get an answer to that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I thought we just heard that there was actually additional sand put on the beach.
Right, well, that's why I'm asking the question. I don't know if that 115 tons represents the balance, and if now we've utilized it all, or if there's
Can you
still.
clarify that, Rainey? I thought, didn't you just tell us
will.
that?
Okay,
We'll
great,
find out.
thank you.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
All right.
Actually thought we got more sand for our buck.
I think we did.
Yeah, that's what I,
That was the impression
So I
was
don't
left.
think we
the
left any
impression I got.
sand on the table, but
No.
maybe,
Sand on
We
the
left sand
table.
on the beach.
let's leave it all on the beach.
leave all the sand on the beach. Okay, we have a one-day liquor license request.
Move,
I like the sound of this event.
oh,
think
I
we got
move
it.
that Ms.
I'm going to recuse myself from the vote.
Okay.
But I
you
will
can sit
say,
here.
I'm aware of a letter that is also attached to our packet about inviting us to this,
Oh,
Oh, God.
or to be a
Are
participant.
we part of a book club?
I didn't get this letter.
So, if you're interested,
Nancy's looking
I
at
know-
you like,
I think you get the trivia. I think it was the trivia night.
you didn't get a letter
Yeah,
about,
trivia
we
night.
weren't invited to the battle?
No, you were specifically not.
I think we were disinvited.
No, I don't think.
the Battle
No,
of the
why would
Book
we
Clubs.
be invited to the book club thing?
I like the,
I think they were, the librarians have had some.
Don't we have to read the book before we go to the?
It's at the end of April.
What's the
You
book?
folks
What's the
made
book?
me sign up for a half marathon, and I'm training for that. So the least we can do is read a few
I'm happy
books.
to do the book, but it
What's the
doesn't sound
book?
like we're invited, Mike, okay? We're not invited here.
Invited you guys to the trivia night.
trivia night. That's
Are we going?
Yeah, I'm going. I thought we were
Are
going.
you signing
Everybody's
us up?
going.
Are you
What's
gonna
that?
sign us
Are you
up?
signing us up?
Oh, okay.
Who did? Brian did?
Brian got it.
What?
Brian, can you sign us up to
The
the
letter.
trivia night?
I didn't get a letter.
No,
That's a-
Fernando got it.
Friends of the Library.
Oh, yeah, this is,
Oh, no, 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 no,
No,
the,
no.
we're not talking about that,
the
though.
senior center
Rotary
trivia
Club.
night.
Do you want me to go ahead and do it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's the last line. You're right, Mike.
What?
Finally, on behalf of the Friends of the Library, we wish to invite the board to join us on April 26th.
Oh, my. For what?
I guess so.
Oh, wow.
All right,
Oh,
so we
wait,
are
as
invited.
spectators.
Well, I know. What are we going to do
Is that
there?
what it says?
Or
As
as a competing
spectators?
team.
Or as a competing team.
Hey, I'm reading.
Oh,
I'm reading
okay,
an
well, let's find out what the
800-page
book is. I think we could be a good team.
I can tell you which book we're going to recommend, Napoleon.
Well, if we go, we'll all have to abstain from the vote, and it won't happen, so.
All right.
That's true.
What, is there a book involved with this?
I'll get you the Cliff Notes.
Yes, I think they usually do. They pick a book and then that's what the trivia is based on.
Well, what's the book?
I don't know. Oh, wait a minute.
War and Peace.
No, it has to be something.
No, actually, I think they have a flyer in here.
There's a
Yes.
fly.
Go to the end of, in your package.
Oh.
Battle of the Book Clubs. Wild, Crazy Rich Asians, Endurance, and The Woman in Cabin 10.
Okay, we can do that. All right, let me know. I'm happy
This is
to.
going to be fun. It's at the library. It's
I'm in,
It's a great
if you guys
event.
want to do
Even
this.
the
you could-
spectators
I'll-
are
But
I'll
people
look
go in
into-
costume. Do we have to go in costume?
each team had a theme last year.
Goodness.
Oh, look
too
who,
It
tired.
was great.
I wish we would have had this at the beginning of the meeting to be
Let
more
me know when you'd
enthusiastic.
like me to jump
We-
I
in.
know. I'm probably
What?
Just let me know when you want me to read this.
yeah, just go ahead, Amy.
Okay. I move that Ms. Amanda McGee, as a representative of Friends of Duxbury Free Library, is granted a one-day wine and malt license to hold the Battle of the Book Clubs on Friday, April 26, 2024, from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the Duxbury Free Library, 77 Alden Street, Duxbury, contingent upon the conditions of the license.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
I don't have a copy of that flyer.
Oh, it's not in the package?
No, I didn't.
The
see
flyer
it,
isn't, but the,
No. so
Letter
I-
is.
So I still don't know what the books are.
Okay,
but We'll send it
I
out,
will
right?
get it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I-
Thank you.
since we are on this, can I get, who wants to go to the Duxbury Rotary Trivia Night fundraiser?
And could you just give me the date again?
It's
The 23rd is election day.
the 23rd of March,
Yes, election day.
election
Oh,
day.
yes, so let's,
Twenty third
I
of
can,
March.
yes.
Yeah, that's 3. Mr. McGee?
Well, can we bring our spouses, right? So
Yeah.
it's really like
Yeah.
6.
I
How
will.
many people,
I will plan on it. Yes.
Oh,
I
if
believe
we-
I will be here.
So it'll be all spouses too.
So there's a
I'll
list.
drag Jamie.
yeah.
I don't know, what's the in-kind? Is that over $50? Probably can't
A
go.
couple?
I don't know.
No, it's a
Oh,
whole
wait, create a
table,
team
right?
or join a table? We'll create, we'll,
We just can't win.
Last year, they invited us for free.
oh, that's right,
I was gonna-
$400
let's see if
per
they'll-
table.
Dearly.
No,
Oh, yeah,
they
well, I
just,
can't
they
do
gave
that
us a
because
table
I'm
last
out.
year.
Oh,
I'm
I'll
out.
ask
I have to
Tara.
pay my taxes. I can't afford it.
I'll ask Tara if we can get a free table.
We need to get a free table, and then we spent money there if we
Surcharge.
wanted to.
Yeah, yeah. We donate. We
Yeah,
did.
we did. So,
All right, well, if I send a note to my fellow select board members asking them to contribute, I will not be violating open meeting law, correct?
correct.
I have no idea. I'm not.
I think we can go
What was
just
that question?
I don't think it's.
What was that question?
He wants to hit us up some money.
If I
Brady
send-
actually woke up for that one.
Got me nervous.
Yeah.
What are you trying to
Just
do?
tell him no.
Go to a
Tell
fun
him no.
event.
You can
I
go
was
to a
asking
fun
if
event.
Is it okay for me to send a note to my fellow select board members, ask them if they want to participate in the trivia night?
Ask them here, right now. You're better off.
Good night.
Good night.
Right, but that wasn't the question. You said it was to donate.
No, it's not donate.
Oh.
I will ask Tara if we can go for free, because we're a bunch of cheap select board members.
Well, I don't think we can ask that.
Yeah.
That's the opposite.
Yeah,
we
we can't.
We should contribute.
We can't.
Hurt.
Yeah.
It's why you, as I've explained other times, it's why you can't have people sign your papers in town hall.
Yeah, right, no, I.
You can't get away from it.
No.
You know what I mean?
I mean,
We'll find out what our deal would
In
be.
her email to you, she didn't say something about that, because last year, they specifically invited us, so I'm just confused, to just
Okay,
come.
we're hosting a trivia night to raise money for the Good Neighbor Fund. I have attached a flyer registration link. I hope you and the select board members will consider joining us. We had a lot of fun last year. If you would share this information with the select board, I would really appreciate it. Thank you, and be well.
So what is the question?
How much it's gonna cost us to have a table?
Oh,
$400.
Can you ask her?
Okay. No, it's $400 for a table. It's on the
oh, okay.
trivia poster. It's $400.
Okay,
So figure out if you want to kick in.
Yeah.
There you go.
okay,
Okay.
all right.
That's not a big deal.
I move to approve the 12/27/23 Select Board open session minutes as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
I abstain.
Aye. Why were you not here?
It says I wasn't.
Okay.
That was the one that was virtual only?
Yeah, in fact, I was the clerk.
Oh, right.
And I read the bonus shellfish season.
Right,
There's a lot of
okay.
announcements.
Announcements.
20
Off you go.
2024 Beach and Transfer Station stickers. The new beach and transfer stickers effective April 1, 2024 through March 31st, 2025 will be available to purchase on Tuesday, February 20th. Stickers can be purchased online by visiting www.town.duxbury.ma.us and clicking the link to purchase under the Services tab on the homepage, by calling City Hall Systems at 508-381-5455, or by mailing in or dropping off an application and supporting documents to Stickers Department, Duxbury Town Hall, 878 Tremont Street, Duxbury, Mass. 02332. Applications are available on the town website and inside the lobby of Town Hall for your convenience. If you are dropping off an application, please drop off in the black secure lockbox behind Town Hall with a self-addressed stamped envelope. Additional information regarding sales and current services can be located on the homepage of the town's website at www.town.duxbury.ma.us. Number 2, vote by mail. Voting by mail is available for all elections in 2024. If you would like to vote by mail for elections scheduled during the 24 calendar year, please return a completed signed application to the town clerk's office. A ballot will be sent to you as they are available. Currently scheduled elections in 2024 are the presidential primary on March 5th, the annual town election on March 23rd, the state primary on September 3rd, and the presidential election on November 5th. The deadline to submit a vote-by-mail application is 5 p.m. on Tuesday, February 27th. Early in-person voting for the presidential primary will be at the Town Hall, Mural Room, 878 Tremont Street, Duxbury, Mass. During the following dates and times. Saturday, February 24th, 2024, from 9 to 3. No in-person voting on Sunday, February 25th, 2024. Monday, February 26th, 2024, from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m., normal business hours. Tuesday through Thursday, February 27th through February 29th, from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., normal business hours. And Friday, March 1st, from 8 a.m. to 12:30 p.m., normal business hours. President's Day Hall closure. The Town Hall will be closed on Monday, February 19th, 2024, in observance of President's Day. There will be no Select Board meeting that evening. The next scheduled Select Board meeting will be Monday, February 26th at 7 p.m. in the Ellison Room at the Senior Center, 10 Mayflower Street, Duxbury. I forget why we're doing it there. It was,
they're
something
voting
else
here.
is in
Early
here.
voting's
That's
happening
right.
in here.
Yeah.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye.